the time it's scheduled to 1 o'clock, I think. Nazim, good morning.
Morning, Nazim.
Good morning, colleagues. How are you? Despite all the criticism that I heard when I came online. I'm okay.
Share your optimism or your futurism with us, Nazim.
All I know is that my kids start online schooling next week and will go to physical school on the 15th as per government proclamation. So my kids are trying to unscramble their brains around the fact that school starts in 5 days' time. That's my reality.
How many children do you have at school?
Only two.
Two, yeah.
But we only got notified of this yesterday, so.
Yeah. And you've got, is your one child starting varsity this year, or?
No, they're both at varsity.
Already, okay.
My daughter's waiting for results, but my son has had his. He did extremely well, so
fantastic.
Yeah. All in all, it's not been too bad.
Alex, let us start this meeting, please. So good morning, opening and welcome. Anne-Marie, agenda. Thank you so much. Colleagues, I put together an agenda to reflect the meeting today. Today is, if you like, a special EXCO meeting. At least Rebecca and I don't know whom else, only started work on Monday past. And I didn't want the whole of January to go by without us having an EXCO meeting because there's a lot on the boil. And I want to bring it together into a coherent activity. So there are no minutes of the previous meeting. That will be tabled at the next formal LIASA EXCO meeting, which I'm hoping will be arranged for about 2 weeks' time. February is starting to look horrifically full, but we must make time for this. So welcome everyone. It's good to see you as always. I hope that you had a good break, a good Christmas, a good New Year, a good holiday for those of you. And those of you who haven't yet, what are you waiting for? Just to note that I finally convinced Anne-Marie to go on leave, and she's going on leave next week. And she has strict instructions to do R&R. Nora, could you just make a note of who's present and who leaves when? Thank you. Colleagues, note that I will have to leave at 11:30. Unfortunately, after I set this meeting up, a meeting with the SRC, the time slot, this became the only time slot for a meeting with the SRC, so I have to leave at 11:30. We have a new SRC, and so they are quite enthusiastic about taking up their portfolios. And if the directorate has decided it is best for us to meet with them so that we can share with them where we're coming from and develop their understanding of situations, rather than them making broad sweeping statements about the opening of the library at such times. Because I put the agenda together not too long ago, you might not have had a chance to look at it. So I want to give each of you a chance to look at it. Anne-Marie, if you could just scroll slowly, please. The purpose of doing this is for you to see if there's anything you need to add. So point 3 would be for us to speak about 2021. 3.1 is a general discussion, and 3.2 is for Q1, first quarter, which is between now and April. And quarter 1 represents everything that must be attended to between now and April. You will see some things that aren't there. What happened to SA Library Week?
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Okay, I had SA Library Week, but because I was manually manipulating the numbers, I must have not put it back. We'll get back there. 4 is any other business, and then 5 is closure. As you can see, it's quite a substantial agenda already. I think just for sake of ease, let's put 3.2.1 SA Library Week, and then all the numbers change from there. I'm afraid, Anne-Marie, those are manual numbers, so each one has to be changed manually.
Good morning.
Hello, my Secretary General. Welcome. How are you doing?
Fine, thanks. How are you? I was
Good,
struggling to
thank
connect
you.
today.
Yes, the colleagues were saying, notice been keeping notes just as we started. We haven't gotten
Thank you.
very far. We're at the point of looking at the agenda for anything else. So colleagues, is there any other business, any other matters that you want to see on the agenda for today's meeting? Bearing in mind that we will have a fuller meeting in about 2 weeks. Thanks, Anne-Marie.
Yes, please, Madam President.
Yes, go ahead, Bukhari.
I'm just trying to also quickly scan what you have put in, but the correspondences that we have received from the head of LIS and for Salga.
Okay, just scroll under, actually I meant to put it under general.
Any other business, yes.
No. Put it under 3.1.3, Anne-Marie, outstanding matters. So B would be Salga. C would be
head of LIS. Yeah.
Okay. D would be Tando. Abantu books. D would be
Abantu books. I was coming to that. Yes, thanks.
And E would be special. What is it? Slicing.
Slicing. Yes, Madam President.
Thank you very much. Okay. Anything else, colleagues?
There was a point that Anne-Marie had asked to go onto the agenda about 2018-2019 membership. Is that somewhere?
It could go under finance. But I want to talk about it before I leave. So Anne-Marie, put it under slicing, please. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, I'm going to close the agenda, colleagues, because I think we have more than enough time. Just to recap, I'm leaving at 11:30, 11:29 and a half, and then Nasim will assume the chair of this meeting. So I'd like to move on to 3.1, general remarks and personalia. Colleagues, it's a new year. It's unprecedented. Never before has a LIASA EXCO entered a third year, which is what we've done now. But all of this year, and it's not an entire year, in the next 9 months, we are going to birth a handover. Yeah? So the theme for this year in EXCO is finish it, right? Finish whatever was started in October 2018 when we assumed the presidency. Finish it. So I want each of you, please, to go into the minutes or your notes of previous times and see what it is you haven't completed. And see what it is that you've raised that EXCO hasn't completed. And bring that to the table, please. Yeah? We can do it in whichever way you like, but maybe just a little table. Anne-Marie, scroll to the bottom of this document, please. Okay, colleagues, this is a template that is used at UCT. I must admit I don't use it, but it's a very quick way to keep notes during a meeting for oneself around actions. And so I suggest you use the table like one where with these actions, and you list all the things that you haven't done or that you need to complete, and things that you think EXCO hasn't attended to yet that needs to be completed. I want us to have a complete handover to the incoming presidency, please. There mustn't be leftover stuff like we inherited. We can start new things. Nazim is in EXCO. So in agreement with Nazim or with Nazim's understanding, we can start new things, okay? Things that have a greater impact to LIASA. But not like we inherited HR matters, etc., etc. Not like we inherited old decisions that needed to be made about conferences. Everybody got me? This is not negotiable, please. And number one. Number two is I am relying on you even more than I have in other years for us to complete this, please. Yeah. If you're having any issues around capacity, I need you to please speak with me rather than disappear. We are all so frantically busy. I get that, understand. I can relate to that fully. The only way, though, we're going to solve that problem is by doing it together. So I'm asking you, please talk to me. I know that sometimes I can be quite sharp, and sometimes I can speak in a way that people don't understand. I don't mind either way. I can always repeat it. I can always say it differently if that is what you need. Okay? So you tell me what it is you need in order for you to help me close this presidency in a dignified manner and a manner respectful of LIASA. Okay. Super. Any questions? Okay, just pick up, raise your hand or just interrupt, right? Okay, Anna-Marie, back to the top, please. Colleagues, personalia. Let's start. I'm going to start and then I'm going to Nazim, and then whoever I see on the screen, I will move to that person. I've come back this week from a 3-week vacation. Some of it wasn't easy. It was over Christmas, and on Boxing Day, we lost a staff member to COVID. So, and the staff members were quite upset about that. And we attended the memorial service, and some colleagues attended the funeral. Besides that, as I'm sure all of you have experienced in one way or another, many friends have died, and friends of friends and relatives and so on, and relatives of colleagues. And even though those people might not be directly related to us, we are touched as human beings, and because of our caring of other people, for other people. Those of you who know Liesl Johnson, her husband died from COVID in the last few weeks. And there was another person, I don't, the names is not that one forgets these things, but there are so many people that have died. 2 days ago, a good friend of ours died. And as I said, every day I hear of at least 2 people whom I know of. And I was quite touched last night. I was watching Naledi Pandor and Pravin Gordhan, amongst others. And Pemi, I don't know what her surname is, the Speaker of the House, yeah, who was in tears.
Chief Whip.
Chief Whip, thanks, Anora. In tears over Jackson Tembu's passing, and I got a shock. I don't know the man personally, but I watched, I think when DAC, a couple of months, I think it was probably March, April, May, when DAC was speaking about their approaches to COVID. Jackson Tembu was the program director that day. And as people say, he was a larger than life personality. And Becky Ntuli died, so all over. I'm not untouched by the deaths in our country. And just from a human point of view, to see that in the United States, the death toll is expected to be 500,000 people by the end of this month or the middle of February is just unbelievable. I don't get involved in the debates around vaccines and corruption. I have a very cynical view right now of everything. And regardless of what other people think, I will consider carefully being vaccinated, not because I'm anti-vaccine or because I believe the nonsense about vaccine contains AIDS and so on, but because, as you all know, I have special allergies and my body reacts poorly to certain drugs. So that would be my concern. But if that is not a concern, then I will definitely take the vaccine. And then on the notion of fake news, the story that the 5G towers cause COVID is just absolute nonsense. And it spurred me on to make sure that we're getting the LIASA Academy going so that we can deal with infodemics, the fake news around not only the pandemic, but the fake news that is in the world today. Other than that, colleagues, I'm well. Thank you very much for asking. Nazim, over to you.
what shall I say? I haven't really been on leave. Nikki and I had a bit of a discussion yesterday, and she's threatened me with something unless I take leave. So unless I take 3 weeks leave and not 2, which I intend to do sometime in February. So I still need to do that. Other than that, I'm battling with some skin issues, as I've had some sort of, I don't know, skin infection or something, which I'm seeing a dermatologist for in about 2 weeks or so. But other than that, everything is fine. Work is a little bit hectic, as it usually is. And yeah, I'm just happy that there's no longer President Trump. I know he's not my president, but yeah, we can all celebrate some good news in the world. And yeah, COVID is a scary thing. In our, thankfully, I've had nobody in my family really affected by it. Not touch wood. But I certainly have had close friends and colleagues who have either had it or passed away. And some of my staff have had it. So it's really, it's in your midst and you can't ignore it, and trying to be as careful as we can. And amidst all of that, as I said, yesterday we were informed my kids will go into online learning next week. So that's something that, we haven't foreseen, but we'll roll with the punches. Yeah, that's all I have to say for now.
Thank you, Nazim. I'm so pleased you're taking a leave. Yeah. I'm not going to rehash our conversation yesterday, other than to say I'm really happy about it. And you must please take care of yourself. LIASA needs you.
Will do.
Thank you for reminding us about Joe Biden. I was watching I forgot about it slightly, and my friend WhatsApped me to say she's watching the inauguration. And I signed on just as after he had taken the oath of office and starting his speech, and I had tears in my eyes. And the Atlantic newspaper wrote yesterday that his speech was remarkable for being unremarkable. And my friend and I were saying yesterday, it's the old values that have come to the fore, having a soul, having commitment to one's job, conciliation, acknowledging racism and undertaking to address racism. Those were the things that Donald Trump's presidency just smashed away. And even though Joe Biden is an old white man, the things that he said, I think we could all relate to. And if he delivers just a little bit of what he's promising, this world will be in a better place. I was watching CNN yesterday. He has signed, I think, 17 executive orders. And they've rejoined the Paris Climate Agreement, amongst others. So maybe, just maybe, the world will be a better place. Let's see. Steve, welcome.
Noda and I were...
Go, Nazim.
Now I was going to say, Noda and I were watching from the time Trump left the White House, just so we could see him fly off into the sunset and see that he was really leaving.
I didn't even bother with that part. And of course, colleagues, I forgot to say, celebrating young Black talent, that young woman.
Yeah.
So amazing, Amanda Gorman.
She was amazing.
And, initially she didn't catch me when she started reciting. I was a bit cynical, but I got drawn in more and more as she spoke until the end. And CNN was full yesterday of that poem, and it's all over the internet, of course. Right. Let me move on.
Nikki, can I just add, one last cynical little note or funny moment. I don't know if you've seen this on social media. So Ted Cruz, the asshole. So after Biden joined the Paris Climate Accords again, he sent out a tweet and it said, well, see there, he cares more about the people of Paris than the people of Pittsburgh. And I just thought, oh my word, Donald Trump hasn't left us.
Man, we're always going to have, yeah. Many years ago, a friend of mine had a saying. He say, there are people who are wise, and then there are people who are otherwise. So
yeah, there we go.
Ted Cruz falls into the latter group. Greetings, Steve. Welcome to the meeting. How are you? Share with us briefly how you are.
Thank you, Madam President, and all the colleagues. I have never rested since the festive seasons.
Oh dear.
Some of the senior colleagues left, and then they left me to be heading the municipality since then, and up to the mid-January. It was so tough, and I feel I need to rest.
Yes,
And
I would.
I hope we get the head of the department by the end of this month, so that I can rest and take leave also. But on COVID issues, we're lucky from the library staff. We never had issues. And from also family, I never had issues, but the extended families, we had quite few. And even tomorrow, there is a burial for my mother's sister. So it's tough.
I'm sorry, Steve. What did you say about your mom?
My mother's sister passed away. We're burying her tomorrow. On
Our
Sunday.
condolences.
On Sunday.
Condolences.
And our former mayor, she worked for this municipality since 1994 until to date in a lot of capacities. She also passed away. We are burying her tomorrow. So
sorry. Yeah.
And quite, but the disease is quite devastating for a lot of families and friends. And I always say to my colleagues that if we continue to try sometimes to behave and get lucky too, because you may behave but not get lucky, will continue to survive. And other than that, I know I have not been there for you guys, but I've been seeing the good work you are doing to try to keep LIASA alive. I'm thankful for that. I'm noticing almost everything which is happening. It was just that where they've put me now, it was just tight for me. It's
Steve,
like today, I was not aware the municipal manager is not around. I just got a message that she has appointed me. There are other businesses I must take care. Fortunately, I was chairing that one. I had to cut it off so that I can come here quicker. Yeah. But I'm thankful for all the colleagues. Yeah. Despite what you are going through, it's a challenging times. We are still able to put a brave face for the image of LIASA.
Yeah. Steve, condolences to you for all your family losses. And we are fully aware of the pressures on you. I haven't spoken to you directly, but I've been worried about you for a while now with your roles, your dual roles in your own job, and then the pressure that the municipality puts on you. And I suspect it's because you're doing such a good job that that they turn to you continuously. So I am very mindful of the pressures that you're under. Thank you for acknowledging the work that the colleagues are doing, but don't sell yourself short. Take credit as well for what EXCO has done and what EXCO has managed to do. I get quite cross with people when they criticize negatively. They can criticize constructively. I'm very open to that. But sweeping statements about us being useless and such like, I just get on my back legs these days. I want you to please take leave as soon as you are able to do that. Don't make me threaten you like I threatened Anna Maria Nazim.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate the value of time. The fact that I'm not walking around with an axe in my hand trying to murder anyone is because I managed to finally get time off. And I did nothing. I mean, literally nothing. I stayed in bed all day. I read about 30 books over the period of time and so on, just being able to not pay attention to a clock and email. Is very liberating and energizing. So please do that, right? Because we need you full strength. The year's going to get very hectic. So I'd much rather you took a break now. So don't be too concerned. There are a few things I would need you to see to or put in place before you go. The last thing I want to do is remind you of our EXCO's philosophy. Each one helps one, yeah? So all of us need to pause sometimes on this journey forward. And at that time, then the others carry us. And so we carry each other so that everybody gets a chance to pause and everybody gets a chance to carry an extra burden at one time or another. So look at this as your time to have paused. And it's not that you were lying on a beach in Mozambique or the Bahamas or anything. We know that you've been working, yeah? So please take care and thank you very much. Nora, how have you been? You've been frantically busy. Did you get any rest?
Well, I decided on the 22nd when the office closed. After that, I think by the 24th, I also decided that I'm closing my office. And so basically when the office started up again, I started up again. Yeah, I do think that it's different for me, I suppose, because I don't have to go to work or anything. I can do everything I do in my own time. So, but the 2 weeks not attending to emails and stuff like that was normally I would have been working throughout, you know, on and off on the magazine and stuff like that. But this time I just decided I wouldn't look at any of it. So I didn't.
Good.
But other than that, fine. Just also, we've been fine. Nobody's been in our house, I think, since March of last year. We don't go out except I go shopping. So basically, almost been living under lockdown level 5 since. Just haven't changed those habits at all. And so far so good. It's just always it's sad that you hear. And Madni, his brother-in-law, I was telling them yesterday, his brother-in-law's parents passed away one after the other, and then the brother-in-law ended up in intensive care. So the family and Madni himself got bitten by a spider. So I need to check on him to see how on his hands, and he said he has to go for occupational therapy because the worst pain he's had. So I still have to check to see how he's recovered.
Yes. Send him our best regards, please, and well wishes for the new year, Nora.
I'll do that.
And to Charlotte as well, even though maybe you have less contact with her, but
I have less contact with her, yes.
Yeah. I've heard so many stories. I read that the man called Mr. Plainsman, the man who was a Plainsman, a local newspaper distributor, died. And on the anyway, recently, and then his wife died a few days later. So we hear more and more stories of such like it. It's really horrific. But Nora, I'm sorry about the scam. Have you managed
that was
to,
just,
I still recoup anything?
Not yet. I'm just, more angry and embarrassed by myself.
Sometime I will get this.
Yeah.
But okay, so again, I'm
so
really
I'm following
sorry
up on that, and it's kind of, a note that I email them and I check what the progress is to the bank and stuff. But yeah, it's more one of those things in life that I just can't believe that I fell for it, quite frankly.
You know,
still now.
It's ironically, it's the good people, because you were being responsive and wanting to do things properly. Unfortunately, that is why you were targeted. You know, it's just, I don't know, all these, there must be a special circle of hell for those people. Because they scam people of all ages and stages, and people who can least afford it at times. Not that any of us can really afford it, but some people can afford it even less than others. Take care, my friend. Mohadi,
Okay.
talk to us. Rebecca.
Yeah. Hello. Oh, I must remove my mask.
Okay, got you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. Yes, good morning, colleagues, once more. And in this happy new year, we should be happy, but we are kind of mixed. And thanks for seeing and hearing from all of you. It's been very nice, because we are scary every day. We just don't know which news are you going to hear. And of course, the bad news you're going to receive, but we just don't know from which angle. I'm glad, Nikki, that you did have kind of relief, because you deserved it. And condolences to Steve for your aunt. Other than receiving this unbearable sad news every day and all that, we are grateful that we're still alive and we're still fine, protected. And although I went on leave, but the leave started when I was also going to bury my aunt. But since then, I never had a break with funerals, kind of, because there were families left and right, and we could not rest the whole of the festive up to now, which I just lost my dear doctor, who is a colleague at UNISA, but I'm not quite close to her as a colleague, but at church, because she was also a leader at church in the female part. And her and the husband has passed on. The husband started, and the next day it was Dr. Mampuru as well.
So sorry.
Yeah, so I even owe to go to her office all the time. When she meet me, she said, "Baby, you must come to my office for a cup of tea." I could not manage with time. And she ushered me in church when I was getting installed. So I will still watch her on video, because she's there.
Right.
But other than that, there are lots of left, right. We have lost some colleagues here at work as well. It's very sad. Some are security members, and yeah. But it's life that we are living in now. I'm grateful from my family. We are still all okay. We are trying to maintain and keep whatever that we could to stay safe. And the schools are still not yet open. The kids are kind of bored at home because there's nothing much they can do. The movement is also very limited. So we're looking forward to some bright life sometimes. God help us. But as I said, I'm grateful for all of you colleagues that you are still here. I can talk to you. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Condolences, Rebecca. I hear your hurt. We're really so sorry for your losses.
Thank you.
Teboho, is your connectivity better for you to share with us how you're doing?
Yes, Madam President, it's okay.
Great.
Okay, now on my side, I didn't have a leave. I've only closed on the 24th and came back on the 4th. So this new environment that I'm in now, Northwest University, at least I've learned a lot. In terms of family, well, on my side, everything is still intact. The funerals that we had are a distant families that we had, but in essence, everything is still okay on my side. Thank you.
Great. And your children, Tebogo, your daughter must be going into grade 9 now, is that right?
Yes, no, she's busy online because they are opening on the 29th. They should be collecting stationery and
Right.
and the work. So, but luckily there's internet at home. They are connected. They are busy from the home.
Great stuff.
Okay.
And you're working with Dr. Matthew?
Not directly. He is in
Yeah.
Potchefstroom, but
Well, all right. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. Great.
Yes.
Good to have you on board, Tebogo. Wynand,
Okay.
Sorry,
have
Nikki.
you? Yes, Sisi? Go ahead, Rebecca.
I forgot to just share the good news that at least my son, who was doing his honors in HR, has passed well with distinction in his research. So that's good.
Wow. Congratulations.
Okay, congratulations.
Well
Thank
done.
you.
Well done.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Lovely. Thank you. Wynand, have you had a quick shower while we were talking?
Good morning.
Does it have water?
Does it look like it because the camera is still not on? Rebecca, you missed. Yeah. Go ahead, Wynand.
No, and also I put something in front of the camera as well. So even if the camera is on, making doubly sure. I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry to hear the loss that everybody's talking about. And I must be honest, it's probably because I don't have many family members or friends left. That we're not really directly touched yet, and hopefully won't be by COVID. We try our best to isolate. Just go to the shop and that's it. But in general, I'm doing very well. I've taken leave. I can't say that I've had leave. It's two different things. According to HR, I was on leave, but not according to anybody else. I think that's the way COVID does. I think what COVID has done is to change our working behaviors. We always now online, we're always available. And what I like, I mean, this is my preference as well, is that you can actually focus on things when you can and need to, and not just between 9 and 5. So I can also focus on the children during work hours if I need to. So it's a self-managed continuum process, which I really enjoy. It's my personality fits well for it. I haven't had a response yet for my final application for doing my doctorate, but I'm hoping that I can do that this year or start at least. And I'm just happy with what was published, and I feel I've achieved something at least in the last quarter of last year. But I'm happy, and the children are really bored and quite financially taxing and emotionally taxing when they're at home. And I wish I could send them back to school, but that in itself is going to be problematic. I think again, I think what South Africa needs to realize that we need to adjust, and we have to work differently. We cannot take what we had before and try to work with it exactly as it is now, and not make use of this opportunity to change so many. I mean, this opportunity to change so many things. But that's just my 2 cents with like everything else. All right. That's it from my side. I'm chirpy as always, and not as confused and convoluted as I am when I wrote an email, but I'm happy.
Don't hold that against me. You you benefit from the feedback, and it wasn't negative feedback at all.
No, I enjoy
it.
Yeah, and Nikki, you know me. I enjoy things like that, so I don't mind.
I know exactly. I know how far I can push you. Great, Wynand. I hope that things aren't so hot today that you have to take more clothes off. And I'm glad to hear you sounding all chirpy.
Yes, well, we're heading for 41 degrees.
Oh my goodness, we're only up to what was it, 29 or something. So, oh my goodness, no, you're quite forgiven with your state of undress. Anne-Marie, how are you?
Missed.
Yes, Bukhari, let us not go there because we're running out of time. But in a break or something, the colleagues can catch you up about why Wynand's camera is not on. Anne-Marie, last but never least, how are you doing?
I am doing very well. Thank you very much, Nikki. And just from my side as well, condolences to everybody that lost a close family member or a friend, or even just an acquaintance or somebody, acquaintance's friend or whatever. It's not nice having such a situation, but we have to live with it, unfortunately. My family all are okay. I think I can cite myself with the lucky ones that we haven't had in our immediate or distant family had a case of COVID. So everybody is still fine. We're made apparently of very strong stuff, so we don't get sick very often. Touch wood. Then during the holidays, we spent some time with my mom. It was lovely seeing her again. Since the ban was lifted, she visited us a few times, and now we visited her again. But boy, it's tiring visiting the old people there, I have to tell you. So we came back and we actually had to rest because she's just like, you know, the Duracell bunny, you know, always on the move. But it's always nice seeing her. Then, of course, for me, the highlight is I'll be on leave next week, as Nikki said earlier already. I'm looking forward to that. I'm not going to open the laptop. I'm not going to switch on the phone. So I will just totally go offline and rest as much as I can, walk around the dam, do all sorts of lovely things, not spend time in malls, unfortunately. Well, actually, fortunately, the money would not stretch that far. And then just a bit about the two children. Lebo is doing well, also getting frustrated. Naledi is supposed to go to grade 1 this year. So she's spitting at the chomps, or chomping at the bits actually, to go to big school now, but now she can't and she still has to wait. So Lebo was planning to take leave this week and next week, but now she has postponed it until the schools are actually opening. And then Kagiso, also doing very well. I think it was December, November, around about there, they heard that his wife's company, she's working for an insurance company, their salaries would be cut, only 50% salaries going forward, and they would permanently work from home. So the two of them decided that they cope very well working from home. And since they are renting in Pretoria, but have a house, own a house in Polokwane in Limpopo, they have decided to move back to Polokwane. So he currently is in Polokwane and working from there. And yes, yeah, he's just complaining being a homeowner, lots and lots of work. I'm sure everybody would agree. But he's enjoying it. We had meetings, 2 meetings already, and the two of them are doing very well as well in general.
Super. Thank you so much, Anna-Marie. And I hope you got that bikini ready for that R&R that's going to happen next week.
I might just make a few old people die if I get it.
Okay. Colleagues, have I missed anyone out? I don't think so. We chatted to Tebogo, Mohadi, Steve, Nazim, Nora, Vainant, and Anna-Marie. So I think everyone. And I think Linda's going to join us in about 10 minutes. Let us move on back to the agenda, please. Sorry, let me just see. I want to focus on the matters that I would like feedback on, because I have to leave, of course, at 11:30. So I'm just struggling a bit with my view because I'm side by side standard. There we go. All right. So colleagues, I'm going to take out of the agenda the things that I need your feedback on, please. I am going to ask you to think quickly because there are quite a few things that need attention. Right. So we've covered point 1, general remarks and personalia, and under portfolios is the point I'm making about please go and look at the outstanding matters in your portfolio, outstanding projects, because we will pick up with this at our next full EXCO meeting. On the matter of the PRO, Nazim reminds me that Leila, our electoral officer, has indicated that we could co-opt someone into this position. I urgently need your input in this regard, please, colleagues. We need a PRO. We need the pressure off ourselves. As you know, many hands make light work, but we need the help. We can't keep on going on like this. So any ideas, please?
Nikki, are we asking now for names or for process?
Names. We got a process. Leila gave us a process. We don't have to go. We don't have to go into a by-election. A by-election is expensive. Number one, it costs us every time we have these elections with the software costs. Number two, we live in unusual times with COVID, and the same concern that we had a year ago about not being able to reach the entire membership comes into play here. And the third point is that we only have 8 or 9 months left over. Francine, did I leave anything out about process and reasons why we're doing it this way, Tebogo?
No, you didn't.
Okay.
Well, from my side, I suggest Larsen Eicher as PRO.
Okay. All right. Any other names? Colleagues, I'd like you to think about it over the weekend, please, and by Monday evening for the latest. I would like a name from each of you. Anne-Marie, you don't have that much time. You need to give us a name by the end of today.
Sure.
You can either say you agree or you support finance suggestion, or you can bring a name of your own. Yeah, we need somebody who is a seasoned LIASA member, so they don't need training, too much training, and who's responsive. So we don't want window dressing, please, guys. We don't need another burden, right? We need someone that will help us, and someone perhaps who's an all-rounder as well, so they can fit in not only with our not only with their portfolio, but you know how we help each other out. Yeah? So is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
I will also take in EXCO. I will take your suggestions if you want to be PRO, but it depends on which portfolio you hold. Yeah. So for example, Steve is not going to move out of his portfolio. It's an elected position in any case. Yeah. But anyone else, if you have your eye on PRO matters, then that is also an opportunity, and then we'll have to fill your portfolio. So think carefully about this. Rebecca, I need you to manage this for me, please. So by 5 p.m. on Monday evening. In Anna-Marie's case, it's 4 p.m. today. I want a suggested name for a PRO or an affirmation of Wynand's suggestion, which is Larsen. Got it? Tebogo, is that you?
Nikki?
Okay. Mogadi, then Tebogo.
Okay. You said you need the suggested names when?
5 p.m. 5 p.m. on Monday, the 25th of January, from everyone except Anna-Marie. Her date is 4 p.m. today.
Okay, thanks. Got it.
Right. Tebogo, my governor. Oh no, who is that? Is it you, Tebogo, or is it Steve? Steve?
You know, I thought about it for quite some time, but ideally, I know Nora is retired and she's doing quite a lot for us. I'm not quite sure how, but my candidate, because of the experience and the experience also on the position and contribution to EXCO. If I had my way, I would bet on her. Great. But I know the circumstances around her. She's retired. She's doing these other things she's doing for us. And it might just be, my ideal candidate would be her.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve. Let's hear from Nora.
Well, Steve could have been reading my mind. I would be prepared to swap portfolios, but I wouldn't be prepared to do both. So there is not much in research and development from what I can see. And if we are only looking at the next 9 months, then maybe we don't need that research and development portfolio. And I am involved with SA Library Week anyway. I look at communications with the LIASA in touch. They are all really PRO. The only area of work that I would not be able to cope with is the social media. But on that level, we've always kind of parceled that out, let me say, to others. So even though I come up with the strategies and even the content, you know, we can always get other people to do the Facebook, the tweet, the Twitter, whatever else there is.
Got you, Nora. Got you. Thank you, Wynand.
Sorry, I had to scramble for my unmute button. I'm not sure if I actually agree with Nora on the fact that the research portfolio is not something that, at this point in time, very little is done, but I think it's a very strategic position that we have to rethink going forward. And possibly not needed at this point, but going forward for the next term that we establish it beforehand, exactly what we expect from that position. So that was just to add that I don't think it's something that we should do away with. It's a critical position if we use it correctly.
Thank you, Wynand. Colleagues, we're not taking away any portfolios. So if Nora moves over into PRO position, which I would also support, we will then need to fill the gap left by Nora in that portfolio. And perhaps if everyone's still in agreement, Larson might be more better in that role as well. But my thoughts have to turn to the representative council, and I have to ask the question then, if Nora moves over to the PRO position, should we not be looking firstly in representative council to fill that portfolio? What do you think, Tebogo? With your mic on, please, Puti.
Yeah, naturally that should be the way to go, so that we don't get a slap at the end of the day that we overlooked the structure. Yes.
Yeah. So colleagues, I'm very much in favor. So it is me, Nora, Steve, 3 people who are nominating Nora.
Support.
Okay, that's Wynand.
Support that.
Got it, Sisi.
I was just picking up on what Nora was saying, that perhaps when we support Nora's, instead of losing her other portfolio, which is very critical, I agree with Wynand, maybe it's to balance what she was highlighting, that at some point, like the social media part, that you need some assistance. Can we not share that part with and see how we can share that part? So
Mohadi, my thoughts are, thank you very much. My thoughts are that we take that part of that portfolio and we put it into the one that Nora has vacated. So when we bring somebody on board, amongst their responsibilities will be social media. So that takes care of that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Nazim, Anna-Marie, let me just write down here, Nazim, Anna-Marie, and Linda. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Who am I leaving out?
Yourself?
No, me, Nora, Steve, Wynand, and Rebecca. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. People said Nora. Then we've got Nazim, Anna-Marie, Linda. Who's the 9th person?
It's me.
No, Tebogo. Thank you, Tebogo. All right.
Yes.
So colleagues,
no, I'll agree with the colleagues.
Okay.
I
so
also raised the name of Nora.
Thank you. So Nazim and Anna-Marie, I don't want to put you on the spot here. In fact, I'm going to change my request. And so by the end of today, 4 p.m. today, Rebecca, to be clear now, by 4 p.m. today, we will get feedback from Anna-Marie, Nazim, and Linda about possible names for a PRO. On the table, we have Larson and we have Nora. Yeah. so that we can make a decision by Monday for the latest. We note the restraint that Nora has put on the nomination, which is social media, and that's not a deal breaker. Nora, your hand is still up. Is it a new hand? Ah, brilliant. Okay, right.
Nikki, I can give you feedback
yes,
now. I don't have to wait until this afternoon. I fully support Nora. Definitely not have a problem with that. I also think, as Debora said, that we need to just inform or consult or whatever Rep Council. But I also know that Larsen is very active on social media. So he might fit very well into that portion of the portfolio. But I do fully support Nora for PRO or whatever we're going to call it.
Thank you, Anna-Marie. These are my thoughts, that Nora becomes a PRO within the process as described by our electoral officer. So I'm very comfortable with that, which leaves, except for social media, right? That then leaves the portfolio that Nora currently holds vacant and social media. Now, I think that we should go to REPCO first to fill that vacant portfolio. Failing that, I want to go to Larsen, right? If somebody from REPCO is suitable to fill that vacant portfolio, I still want to see if Larsen can assist Nora as such from a social media perspective. Yeah? Those are my thoughts on going forward. Thank you for that. Right, so that only leaves Linda and Nazim, and of course Linda's not here. Linda needs to be briefed about it. And Nazim, I'm just wondering if you're with us. I see your mic is off, so go ahead, please.
Yes, I'm supportive. I don't have an issue with it.
Brilliant. All right. So,
and I just want to say on the social media side of things, if I look at the people who actually do post, let's say, for example, on our Facebook page, it tends to be Larsen, myself, yourself, and Ingrid now and then. So I'm all for pulling Larsen in from that perspective. If after we followed your levels that we will go through just to find somebody. But I'm sure that he will be happy to continue regardless of what happens in that capacity. And I'm pretty sure if we were to ask Ingrid to kind of step in from a social media point of view, she actually wouldn't mind either.
Okay, thank you for that, Nazim. I'm going to write Ingrid's name down as well. The thing about social media that troubles me is our responsiveness. I know that you respond, I'm not on Facebook every day anymore. I don't have time, and I get irritated anyway, as I did the other night with our colleagues. So I must admit, I'm starting to veer away from Facebook. But we do need to have that service because we're offering it for people to respond. And while I appreciate deeply what you and everyone else is doing, it's just another burden for you. And my philosophy has always been many hands make light work. Colleagues, I think this point is closed now. So Mohari.
Just as you close, Nikki, it's just to bear in mind that I never managed to participate in LIASA social medias because of the issues that I raised earlier, but I do participate in others like Make and the others. So I'm not kind of listed as you are aware of it. So that's why I'm not participating.
If there are practical operational problems, then speak to Wynand to help out with that, yeah? And to Nazim, whoever has the passwords and so on to get you, to reinstate you at an administrator level so that you can assist.
We'll do that.
Nikki, apologies,
yes,
talking about that. After numerous attempts, I've never received the password list from Synovia. That was part of the audit we've done.
I don't know what to do.
We'll have to redo let's just redo the audit.
If you think that's the best way to go. I don't know what to do about Synovia. I sent her just a Christmas wish, a New Year's wish, absolute silence. I'm starting to think I offended her, but I'm getting over it. There are things that she didn't hand over to us, and Wynand, I can't solve that this very moment. I'm making a note of it, and I will have to speak to each of you of the impact of Synovia leaving without handover on your portfolios. That goes into my previous point around portfolios. Yeah. And can you please start drawing up or piggyback on the previous audit so that we can get that sorted out?
Will do.
Thank you so much for raising that point. Colleagues, I'd like to step off this matter, please. The formalities around offering this role to Nora will be taken up from Monday onwards. Yeah? Colleagues, I just want to run through HR leave policy. Steve, if memory serves, we haven't finalized this and you are waiting on EXCO, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Colleagues, you all have the... Yes, Steve?
And maybe Anna-Marie can just resend it back to me. We look at it because she said something. It seems there was some smaller things which need to be looked at.
Okay. The last time I remember, Anna-Marie, there were some things that you were correcting. Is that right?
Yes, Nikki, it's such a long time ago. I'll have to go back to the emails, but there were things that Nikki Kennedy raised. So we just need to see that get incorporated. And it was things like somewhere the numbers didn't add up. Then there was something that she said, the number of leave we can have in the bank doesn't make sense to her from a different perspective. So maybe at some stage we need to speak to her about that. Then she also said we just need to include the office closure between 22nd and first Monday, full week Monday in the month. We just need to include that in the leave policy as well.
Right.
But yeah, we can speak to her as well again if we need to.
All right. Rebecca, can you please set up a meeting for the week after next? That's the week of starting the Monday, the 1st of February. Wednesday, the 3rd of February, I'm entirely free, yeah, for now. So can you please liaise with EXCO, but specifically Anna-Marie, Steve, Nazim, Teboho, Rebecca, might as well, the whole jolly lot of you might as well join the meeting. But we had a little HR committee, and that was me. Nazim didn't join us, couldn't join us at that meeting. Rebecca was there and Steve was there. Yeah. And at Teboho, I don't remember if you could join us, could have joined us or not. I think there was a travel challenge at that time. But colleagues, all of you are invited to the meeting with Nikki Kennedy. So Rebecca, I want you to invite Nikki Kennedy to a meeting for us to examine the HR leave policy. Anna-Marie, by that time, you'd be back 2 days, so you'd have a chance to look at it as well. And then, as I said, the minimum number of people I need are Steve from being our treasurer and Nazim, our incoming president, to be present. And all others of you are very welcome to join that meeting as well. The time depends on your availability. Rebecca, can you please set up that meeting?
Yeah, noted. Thanks, Madam President.
So from my side for now, it's the same as today. It's free when we start talking about it. So let's get it in before diaries change. So it's a meeting, HR leave policy finalization meeting. So we're going to walk out of that meeting, God willing, with a final document, an approved document. Any questions, anyone? Anna-Marie, if you could just dig out the most recent correspondence and pass it on to EXCO, please. And then Steve, if you can update, make the challenge, the changes in conversation needed, please. Right, so I've got that in. Then Salga. Rebecca, I saw, and Anne-Marie, thank you for responding to Favorite's message, both of you. I saw it. I was going to respond, and then I don't know what happened. I was still on leave. We do need to find out by Favorite how we're going to take the conversation forward around the MOU. Yeah. So I think in that regard, I'm going to have to write to him, colleagues, because did he respond to either of you after you wrote to him?
No, remember he is not employed by Salga anymore, so we need to speak to Dora.
Yeah, but he did
say. And
if
we do speak to him, it can only be up to end of January, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, he did say on the way forward, and I do want to hear from him what his thoughts are on the way forward. So I will contact him, put that down under my action on my to-do list. Please, Rebecca. Yeah. And then we're going to meet with Dora. Then we're going to contact Dora in next week as well. Got that?
Yes, got that.
Okay. Colleagues, tell me quickly about LIS schools.
It's that email they sent.
Okay, yeah. When did they send it?
Last week, I think. Actually, Prof. Mwepe emailed me first, and he wanted to find out how he could possibly send that. And I indicated, and then he sent, and I suggested some dates that we could pick up from.
I'm sorry, I haven't had a chance this week to look at that. Just summarize it for me quickly, please.
Anna-Marie, do you have it ready with you, or I can just quickly check?
Trying to find it. Just a moment. Okay, there we go. It is from Gwepe, Prof. Gwepe. He is currently, is it a he? Currently the chair of...
Yes, it is a he.
Thank you. Currently the chair of the LIS Heads of a Schools Forum. And they just need a follow-up meeting held between LIASA and the forum that took place way back in 2018 at University of Pretoria. Flowing from the agreement of the meeting where Ms. Crowster was present, we would like to request a follow-up meeting with LIASA Executive Committee or representatives to reignite the working relationship. In this regard, we would like to discuss the following issues: status of working relationship, liaison between the professional board and the forum, issues relating to LIS schools, the LIASA student chapter, and conference fees for students, standards and curriculum. And then he asked, please indicate the availability of LIASA executives or representatives for a 2-hour virtual meeting for either the week of 5 or 8, 15 or 22 February 2021.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, as long as it's not Naresh Sentu or a more local library school, I'm happy to engage with the LIS Forum. My suggestion is that you respond in the affirmative, saying that we are very pleased to reignite the relationship because we have lots of work that needs to be done, and the library schools are central to that, most notably the professional body and the LIASA Academy. And to this effect, the week of the 8th of February, Anna-Marie, when did I say we're going to meet with Ujala and Claire?
Week of the 15th.
Was the week of the 15th.
Yeah, right. So 16, 17 or 18.
Right. So let us meet with LIS schools the previous week, because that is one of the times that he suggested. If I look at my calendar, I'm free on the 9th of February, which is a Tuesday. And I'm also free on the 10th for most of the day right now. And the 11th, okay, so either 9 or 10. I don't like Monday morning meetings, but we can if nobody else can make it. So Rebecca, get EXCO together for a meeting with the meeting as described on either the 9th or the 10th of February. I don't know if Prof said what time. I would say between 11 and 1 perhaps.
Yeah, I will do so because he just said he needs at least 2 hours, not necessarily what time.
Nazim, you might be on leave this time, but if you're not on leave, is a Tuesday going to overlap with your work days, or are you working from home fully now?
No, you say the 9th of February.
Yeah, that's a Tuesday or the 10th.
Okay. Just that week, we just have to be mindful that it's Kicksel, isn't it?
Oh, shoot. Why don't I have that in my diary anymore? Oh, my word.
Yeah, also that we were talking about it in the...
Oh, my word. I'm sorry. Thank you, Nazim. I don't know why I don't have it in my diary anymore. I wonder if I deleted it. We don't
you
have
cannot delete it. You have
just
something to deliver.
Probably that's why.
If you delete all the other days, you must at least keep the Friday in your diary, because that's when you've got to deliver something.
That's probably why I deleted it. Speaking of which, Anna-Marie, you still didn't get a chance to get hold of that woman? People?
I will just check my emails and see if they responded. But the last time I glanced at it, I haven't seen anything, but it was just a cursory glance. I will search just now.
Please send me that info before you go on leave. I don't want to bother you during your leave, but we won't be able to wait until you come back to continue with it. So I will pick up with it in next week. We do need to know the program.
Sure.
I'm badly running out of time. Yeah. Rebecca, just write to Prof and say, Prof and say, we acknowledge the email, we appreciate it, we are very eager to meet with him for the reasons I've mentioned before. We're just trying to settle our diaries, and we will get back to him with a proposed date soon. We just need to bed Skixel down, Rebecca.
All right, Nikki, thanks.
Okay. Right. Colleagues, I have very little time and there's so much more to talk about. Can I please go on to, where is my Zoom? I think the next agenda item is Ubuntu books. Thank you, Anna-Marie. I'm going to just share my screen now. Could you please unshare, Anna-Marie, for a second? Thank you. Right. So colleagues, I shared this with EXCO and then I got a mail fail. So I don't know if all of you saw it, but Rebecca responded. So this chap, Tando called Lozana of Ubuntu Books, sent this email and ultimately looking for a partnership with LIASA. They're looking for funders, partners, and investors. Now, I want to share with you that I was very surprised to receive this email. Perhaps Tando doesn't remember me, which is quite understandable. When I met with him, not met with him, but when I was introduced to him at the Center for the Book in my capacity of engagement with SABDC, he pretty much ignored me. He's had a very fractious relationship with the CEO of the SABDC for reasons that she says she doesn't understand why. That's number one. Point number two is we might have spoken about this at this EXCO, probably the year before last, and in 2019 that is, or even when I was a member of the previous EXCO. Ubuntu Books has an annual book festival in Soweto. And I was very excited. I was always hoping to go. And Anna-Marie, you may remember we chatted one year about me especially coming up and then going to Soweto. I think you said we could go together because I didn't know anybody. I don't know Soweto and I didn't know anybody else. But Tando led a movement which excluded what they called non-persons of color from Ubuntu Books. They specifically said that white people mustn't come to Ubuntu because this is the only safe space for Black people. And there was quite a storm on Twitter about that and on Facebook as well. Now, I'm not getting into the politics of this. And if you think that LIASA should, then by all means, I will consider your request. But LIASA has tried to remain as neutral as possible while supporting complete non-racism and non-discrimination. Now, again, I don't want to get into an argument with anyone, right? There are various ideologies. The one ideology says that Black people can't be racist because of the oppression that Black people still experience today. And because white privilege is a reality, which is because it's part of structured racism. Yeah. Now, I'm not putting a value judgment on that either way. All I'm saying is that when LIASA talks about full inclusion, when we talk about libraries and information centers generically, we do include people of all shapes, sizes, and colors. And for a person who falls into the category of person of color, I still didn't feel welcome enough to go to Soweto, to Abantu Books. And it was a contrast to the South African Book Fair, where we were actively promoting Black feet through the door to increase the number of people, persons of color, if you like. So in essence, we were doing the same as Abantu. The difference is we were not excluding white people. So I find it really difficult, as much as I want us to be part of Abantu Books, because I think that LIASA has a core strong role to play in the marketing of Black South African writing alongside reading for our country. I find it difficult for us to do that if we are going to take a particular side or a particular ideology. So, having said that, the floor is now open. I know it's a difficult conversation, but please feel free, you're in a safe space, to express what you need to about this. As Thando says in his, and I was following Abantu Books. So yes, Zakes Mda was there, but Zakes was also at the South African Book Fair. Suki Sawana was there. Koleka Putuma, Koleka was also at the South African Book Fair, etc., right? I would love us to have had Basitsani, Basi Kumalo, but that's just me. Florence Maseba, Judith Sapuma, gosh, I'm a big fan of hers still. All right, so he's throwing names around here. The question on the floor, colleagues, is LIASA going to partner with Abantu Books, given Abantu Books' specific ideology? And it might not be in place anymore, but given it might not be overt, might not be open anymore, but given their position that white people should not come to Abantu Books because Black people don't feel safe when they do. Okay, so floor's open, please, colleagues.
Nikki?
Yes, Nora, go for
it. From where I stand, I was also very excited when I first saw about Abantu Books. I know the whole idea of promoting, it's always been very dear to my heart, the promotion of Black and African literature. And we have a whole history that is hidden, even today still, where people don't recognize maybe people that were banned or people, whose writing they're not familiar with. So that has always been something very close to my heart. But at the same time, LIASA represents our sector, and I don't think we can stand on a platform which excludes our membership. Or some of our members. For me, that is the bottom line. So, yeah.
Thank you, Nora. Appreciate the input. Anyone else?
Nikki, from my side, politics and ideologies and all sorts of things aside, I think I need to know what they mean by partnership. Do they need us to give them money? Because then, unfortunately, we don't have. So from my side, I need what they see as the partnership before I can make any decision or anything. Yeah.
Yes, Tando did say he wanted some indication whether we were interested in hearing of a proposal from them. But, you know, I don't want to lead him along. Maybe we should hear him out and then take it from there. But let us just get a sense from the colleagues about this. If you have any thoughts you want to share, I see. I don't know what the order was of hands that were raised.
Steve is first.
Right, go for it, Steve.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to stress that LIASA is established on the values of being non-racial. And from that viewpoint, if we get the full details of partnership and we make our own input on the state of that partnership based on what the full presentation we have, we should be able to state what do we stand for and how best we can partner and what are our conditions based on our values to partner. And I would, if we take it from that point, I think it would work much better for us. Maybe we can even educate them and probably they change their mind, because we are a sector which serves everyone, and I wouldn't really like us to exclude others while we are saving. We are supposed to be non-racial and serve for the good of the constitution of our country. Thank you.
Steve, thank you for those thoughtful insights. Just to say to you, I will not get into those conversations with those colleagues. The way they engage is not through reasonable debate. And it's not something that I would take LIASA to. We would, I think what you said was incredibly valuable, conditions based on LIASA values and principles, which are not the values and principles of this group only. It is LIASA values and principles that we uphold, and we'll take it from there. Thank you. Nazim, are you next? And then Wynand, you dropped your hand. Nazim and then Mukhadi.
Okay. I don't really want to add much to it. I think I just want to echo, I think, what everybody has said, because I think if we take a position with this request, then we've also got to be then ultimately we've got to take the same position with whoever next comes along and asks us for something in a similar vein, and they might also have things that are against the principles that we are built on. So that for me is one of the problematic things. And in any case, I also think that if we look at our current partnerships, we have a partnership with the SABDC, which in its form actually embraces a lot of these other things as well, because it is inclusive from a book development point of view. So there's already that. And the thing is also, do we, what is the use then necessarily of then partnering with somebody else? Yes, we are supportive of all of these things, but currently our partnership is also very much strengthened in terms of the SABDC. And if there's already these kind of frictions between Tando and I mean, he's got frictions with many people, there's also that for me, which is a little bit alarming. I think nothing prevents us from actually sounding him out, hearing what he wants. And I agree with Steve, maybe it's an opportunity for us to actually bring him on board in terms of principles of great inclusivity, but I doubt he'll probably look at it from that point of view, because we also need to remember that Abantu stemmed from the fact that he walked out of the Franschhoek Literary Festival protesting against the whiteness of that, and how the structures are meant to perpetuate the past. And that's how Abantu came about.
Yes,
so,
I do remember, which,
you know
what he did wasn't a bad thing. He was quite right.
Exactly.
Even up to last year, Franschhoek is still too white, in my opinion. But what he did was he went from a too white festival to a too black festival. That is what he did. So you white people are too white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to exclude you. And that is really not what LIASA is about. And this is not what I understand our country to be about. But there might be opportunities, because we are fully committed to supporting Black and African authors. And so wherever the opportunity arises for us to do something there. But I think, who else has had their hand up? Now, Mukhadi, and then Wynand, you put your hand up again now. So let me start with Mukhadi and then Wynand, and then I'm already late for the meeting. So please,
I just wanted to say, Nikki, just be mindful of your time.
Yes, thanks. I was coming to remind you of the time as well, but just to be quick, I think I actually also support what my colleagues have said, that at first it gets me excited because I thought it's something that we can pursue in. But I was also viewing or watching the file that they attached, and I'm seeing one of the pictures, it's a white lady, and the other one there was an Indian person. So I'm not quite sure, but most of the audience are Blacks. So I'm supporting what colleagues have already said, that we uphold our principle, and perhaps indeed we may as well perhaps send him back our values, so that before he can even pursue the partnership, he understands what LIASA is all about. Before we could even, and I agree with Nazim that we are already having partnership with SABDC. So if they are even of one-sided, I don't see any value for us to engage with them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Look, Thando wants a TV show, so he will have to put his racism or his bias in his pocket, because I can't see how he's going to get that in. But let's see what Wynand has to say, and then I do have to leave.
I've had a look at onto the website, and I've read various things, and I take a different view on this. With us partnering with them, we don't necessarily have to be supportive of their or individual or an entity's political views. But also considering that Black economic empowerment is a reality, and I'm completely supportive of it, I would actually put aside the person's, that individual's problems, and look at what Ubuntu as an entity stipulates. And nowhere could I find anything that's on the website that says specific about, it talks to improving the livelihoods of the Black community, right? And development of literary programs. And I also think that if we start analyzing this, we'll have to start analyzing all our partners. If something in their policy or the vision and mission statement is not constitutional, then we can have a problem with it. One person's action should not dictate to us. And I believe that in partnering, we can actually still be neutral. Because this will, I mean, if we take this route, then we can say we cannot align with, who's this bloody white racist group? AfriForum. No, AfriForum, for instance, because they are seemingly racist, and are fighting for a minority group, which might not be racist in itself. So I'm just, what I'm trying to say is I'm going against a group now, saying, and funny enough, I'm the white one, saying, let us see what the partnership entails. Let us look at the Ubuntu as an entity and see if there's anything that we find that's contradictory to our constitution. If not, let's partner with as many as possible, because I also support the improvement of the livelihoods of Black community and specifically the development of literary programs. This is something that we need and we can partner with, but let's look at the nature of the partnership, and maybe we should go back and in our policy state, we will not partner with anybody that whose vision, mission, or constitution is actually unconstitutional. Because we need to express it as well. So when things roll back, say like we are neutral, we don't support them for their political motivations, but we definitely, as a library information sector or representative sector, we support the development of literary programs.
Thank you, Wynand. Just an observation. I think Abantu Books is Thando. So we're talking about what they stand for in the value and principles, but you're likely not going to find it. I've taken everyone's feedback on board. I'm going to write to Thando and say to him, we'll be glad to engage further, hear what he proposes, and then we can take a look at this conversation. Colleagues, I'm afraid I do have to go. I just want to look at the agenda again. Anne-Marie, if you'd be kind enough to put this up. Okay, colleagues, Nazim, if you could please make a note of the following. SA Library Week, you and I have discussed already. LIASA Academy. Anne-Marie, can you tell the meeting what it is you and I discussed the other day? And Nazim, I mentioned it to you as well. That bottom line is we're having a think tank and then we take it from there. Skexel. Colleagues, I need your permission, please. I need the permission of EXCO to use LIASA funding to fund Skexel while we look for further funding to have this conference. I noted what Ellen threw out at the special general meeting about we might not make money, but you know, Ellen was speaking from an opinion position and not from a position of knowledge. And so we are the current executive committee. The risks that will be taken will be carefully considered by us. But I do need your in-principle agreement to go ahead with funding Skexel from LIASA funding. And we will recoup it through that process and other funding. Then professional body and designations. Anne-Marie, you will let us know when the SAQA board meeting is going to take place and the status of the designations. The LIASA Youth League. Just want to speak quickly about the LIASA Youth League. It did come up in the LIS forum email as well. You will remember, Steve, in 2019, I asked you to be part of a group to formulate what I fondly call the LIASA Youth League. In essence, it's emerging librarians and librarians who are at college or at present, at university and so on. Colleagues, the time is overdue for us to create, what did the professor call it? A youth something or other, far nicer words than the LIASA Youth League, but we definitely need to get going with this. And Anne-Marie has come up with an excellent idea. Yes, I know, Wynand, it's my inside joke. I deliberately call it the Youth League. The professor from the LIS Forum has a much nicer name for it. Internally, we'll call it the Youth League. We do need, the time is overdue for us to speak to the colleagues. You remember we were going to go back to Zululand last year. We know why we didn't go back to Zululand. I got quite a rude email just before Christmas telling me that the young people are tired of LIASA, almost as if threatening me. I was very tempted to tell that man to go and blast Toppies, but I didn't. Right, so colleagues, just heads up from next week onwards, I'm going to speak to you, Steve. And I know, Steve, you're very busy and you're going to the bathroom right now. But Steve, Linda, at the least, the floor is open for anyone else. We need a cohesive, comprehensive strategy and implementation to deal with the emerging librarians, both those who are going to be qualified and those who are newly qualified in LIASA, please. Elections can also be unpacked, but Teboho, I would like you to lead the elections, please. That doesn't mean nobody else will be doing anything. Merely to say that you will be leading it and you'll be the key contact with the electoral officer, alongside myself and Nazim as well. And we'll talk about that outside this meeting, right? LIASA restructuring. We need to initiate community of practice circles, but I don't have time to talk about it now, I'm afraid, so I'll have to park that one. LNO, I've opened conversations with Anne-Marie. about changing the jobs and roles and profiles of the LNO staff. Anna-Marie and Nazim can share it with you about Kagiso's envisaged role. And going back to the LIASA Academy, the LIASA Youth League, we've also agreed that Kagiso has strengths in that regard. Anna-Marie, can you talk further to that after I'm gone, please? Branches and interest groups, I'm deeply unhappy around how branches and interest groups have been managed by ourselves during our term, and we need to step up in this regard, colleagues. What that means practically, I don't have time to talk about right now, but we will come back to that. And then when Steve comes back from the bathroom, please remind Steve about his promise to give us monthly reports. We need to see that initiated, please. The date of the next meeting, Rebecca, I would like us to meet in the next 2 to 3 weeks, maybe it'll be 3 weeks. And then we will have a full-on LIASA meeting, full-on EXCO meeting. It might even run into the next day. So it could be a Friday and half a Saturday. Please, would you set that up, have a discussion with the colleagues, but I please would like to see that happen in mid-February. Right, I'm opening the floor for any last observations before I leave. Okay, if not, Vainat, you still have your hand up, but you did say you were going to the bathroom. Okay, Nazim, I'm handing over to you now. Everyone, thank you very much. Please be well, be safe, look after yourselves, each other, your loved ones. Anna-Marie, have a great holiday. And I might join you before 1 if the other meeting finishes as scheduled. Okay, bye everyone.
Bye-bye,
Thanks,
Nikki.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Nikki.
Bye, Nikki.
All right. Do you all want to have a break? Bathroom break?
Yes, please.
Yes,
Before we all write down here. Yes, thank you,
Yeah.
President.
Okay.
Yes.
Shall we be
Time.
back at 10 to? Is that long enough? 8 minutes?
Yes. Oh,
Yes,
no, that's
fine.
quite long. Okay.
10 to. Thank you.
Thanks. Oh, you have 10 minutes.
I'm back.
Mr. Bocho, are you back? Okay. I'm afraid I'm going to have to multitask while we're doing this. I just got something from work which I also have to concentrate on. So I'll try and do justice to both. When Anna-Marie has to talk or somebody else, then I'll pay attention to the work things. All right.
Does it mean that you don't value what they're saying?
Who?
You, if you go on with work while they're talking, it's implied that you're not worried about what they're saying.
Not to be so talkative.
What do you have against me, Wynand? I mean, really,
Nothing.
I mean, of
Nothing.
late, I get the sense that you don't like me.
No, I'm just in a good way.
It's a Grahamstown, it's a Makanda thing, I promise you,
Think
because
so.
Larson did the
Larson was
same
the
thing to me
same.
yesterday,
Yep.
telling me I need a shower.
But please
The
share
people
with
who
me
have no
what
water.
what did Wynand said, Nazim?
It doesn't matter. He keeps saying things. He's just, I don't know, being onnodig.
This is what happens. I'm more in the company of my children than I am in with adults. Maybe that's why I tease more than I usually do. Yeah.
I thought that
no,
if there's no water, maybe there was some herbs or something. That's
no. No, it's legal to use those herbs, but it's not legal to go to the beach. Things have really changed.
Let's not go there.
Before we go on with the agenda, I just have, unfortunately, some sad news to share with everybody. Linda won't be joining us on the meeting. She sent a message to Anna Marie and myself to say that her dad passed away, and she is on her way to the Eastern Cape.
Oh, so sorry.
So please keep Linda and her family in your thoughts and prayers, and maybe just send a message of support when you have a moment.
Yeah, will do.
Will do. So sad.
Yeah. He has not been well. I think he's progressively gotten worse over the last while, from what Linda's been telling me. So, yeah, I think she kind of expected it. But yeah, probably thought she's going to have a little more time. So at least she got to spend a little bit of time with him over the December holidays. So, okay, let's move on. Okay, let's just start with SA Library Week, just so that everybody is on board. So yesterday we had a task team meeting. We've taken into consideration everybody's comments and preferences in terms of the poster. Nikki, in a meeting I had with her yesterday, gave some further thoughts on things that she would like to see moving forward. So what we've done is these two of the posters, that seems to be the ones that most people prefer. It's kind of a dead heat between the two. The one is from Anthony, which is the one with the students in the library, and that very vibrant, in inverted commas, colors. And the other one is the one sent by Katlego, which is, it's kind of very yellowish poster, the one with the figure holding up the one. So what we've done is we've gone back to them. We're asking them to change some elements in the posters that they've submitted. We are going to give them until the 28th to do so. And following that, we will then make a final decision. So it will come back to EXCO and the task team just to have a look again. And then by the 3rd of Feb to make a final decision as to which poster we are going with. That's where we are with the poster. Within the next week and a half, we're hoping to firm up some thoughts on the launch program, as well as what needs to happen in the rest of Library Week, and then share that with everybody. One of the ideas that we have as well, because also of things we picked up from the virtual Indaba, is to have a webinar / meeting with Rep Council, or not Rep Council, the branches and the interest groups, to get them on board, because they'll have to drive a lot of what we're hoping to achieve. But so that they are on board, that they know what needs to happen, and that we don't get accused of not informing them, not involving them, and therefore, just coming to them with something and then expect them to do the necessary. So that's where we are with Library Week thus far. LIASA Academy. Anna-Marie, can you speak to this? So the basics I got from Nikki yesterday was that she wants this think tank meeting set up, which is with Ujala and Claire, and then possibly look at involving people from both EXCO and Rep Council, and then obviously also the involvement of people in the field. But you apparently have more information, so if you can maybe share that with the team.
Thanks, Nazim. I don't have much more information than that. But yes, Nikki asked me to contact both Claire and Ujala at first for just initial conversations on the academy that we can start building on that. So the first meeting, the conversation starter will be the week of the 15th of February. I think one of those days, or whichever day that the most people are available. The entire EXCO, of course, is invited to join this meeting should they be available. And I think it is just in the initial conversation, we do have the document, but the initial conversation would just be setting platforms, setting programs, that type of thing, how we're going to do it, all the nitty gritty. And then we will pull in people from the field to start assisting with content development for the various programs. I think what also will be discussed, what will be the formats, what will be one-off courses or workshops or training, and what will be ongoing, what would be courses that will be repeated over a period of time. Sorry. So it's all sorts of nitty-gritty, and I think because Ujala has done many trainings, she's been involved with many academies, both at LIASA and UP. And Claire is, I'm not sure if she's still involved, but she was very involved with the IFLA, the CPD, WL, the CPD and workplace learning program, the what do they call it, not interest groups, the sector, I can't remember what they call them. So she was very involved with that. And I think that's why she's involved. I think she also asked to be involved. There are other people that also asked to be involved that we need to consider. But those people, I think they have very specific skills in very specific areas, and that's where we can use them. For instance, if I can name names, Tini de Klerk is also very involved with training, but she's very technical. Therefore, she would be much better used in developing content and maybe delivering, I'm not sure, something to do with cataloging and classification. That's her area of expertise. It will just muddy the waters if we now get people in this initial conversation that are too technical, that can't see the bigger picture. I'm not saying that Tini can't, but just in general, so that we can have a holistic plan that we can take forward, because before we hand over, we need to have this implemented and running strongly. So the academy is going ahead.
Okay, thanks, Anna-Marie. I think while you're busy talking, I just want to not necessarily follow what is on the screen, but will you, I don't know if there's much else you can talk about the professional body in the SACWA meeting. I don't know if you know when that actual meeting date is yet, or whether it's still something that you're finding out.
No, I do have the date. So what happened towards the end of last year, remember way back before lockdown, we submitted the other two designations, and then the entire country came to a standstill. Things are not going well at SACWA. I think they have to retrench people because lots of things that they did, like, let me see. So they, for instance, would, at quite a heavy fee, would verify qualifications from foreigners that want to work in the country, but people couldn't get into the country. Very few people employed new people. So their income stopped, and therefore they had to retrench a lot of people. So there was a big backlog. So, but anyway, they caught up eventually. And I think it was in December, just before we closed, Eugene contacted us and said that now they got the application for the other 2 designations. However, the application form now is old. So he sent me a new application form, which is basically the same. It might be, the questions in a different order or something. So the changes are very, very minimal. So he sent me that, and the next board meeting is the 11th of February. So we will just copy and paste the information from the original applications to the new application form and resubmit that. And then that will serve before the SAQA board on the 11th of February.
From our side, it's just a matter of resending the documentation.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Copy, paste, resend, that's it.
Okay. Are we meant to be present at the board meeting?
No. They do their own board meeting. It's internal. Yes, he did add that if it is approved, then we are likely to only get the letter of approval in April, though.
Okay. That's still further than we've been for the last 2 years.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
It seems that given by what the track record of what has happened before, I just wanted to ask Anne-Marie how certain we are that, are we 90% sure, are we 50% sure that we will get the approval? And has there been any thought given to how we will promote the new designations, given the, I would say, poor uptake of the designation that we currently have? Has there been any kind of discussion around that?
Nora, your first part of your question, no, we can't be sure that it will be approved. I think while we think that we're struggling and sometimes falling down, according to SAQA, LIASA is one of the professional bodies that are really doing well with the professional body duties and the designations. So I think we need to give ourselves that. So therefore, I think our track record might give us a better chance, but there's no certainty. I don't know who's on the board. I'm sure there are no malicious people that would just say, no, I don't like them, or this is nonsense. But I do know that they really interrogate the documents. They go through it line by line and then make a decision based on that. But after the first time that it was rejected, we have adapted it, and hopefully they will better understand our sector now. So we'll just have to live on a prayer until then. In terms of promoting the designation, I think once we've heard that we got it, we definitely need to make a big splash, because that would mean that the entire sector is now included and can get be awarded a designation should they apply. And we will have to just expand our campaign, which we are still working on. And I'm sure the new PRO will assist greatly with this. We will work with her.
And you're talking to her? Sorry, Nora. Shame. She might as well resign already.
I'm glad you can't see my face.
Sorry, Nora. So yeah, no, we just need to formalize the campaign and start doing it, because it's just making people aware of the benefits of doing it, because it's not really any extra work for them. I think I said to Nora the other day that I got an email from somebody in the Eastern Cape, and she's 2 years into her designation now, 2 and a bit years. And she said, no, she doesn't want to do this anymore. It is too academic for her. She's from the public library sector and all sorts of excuses. And I think it's just because I think she didn't want to understand, because I've explained to her numerous times, but there are many other people that don't understand the process, that don't understand that for your job, you already, you have a personal development plan or a professional development plan, whatever you call it in your institution. And if you just do a good job in drafting that, then you're home away. It is not all about paid workshops and attending webinars and things like that. And we just need to get that across to people, and with a nice campaign, sort of an in-your-face campaign, you know, they need to know. The other thing that is happening this year, that first set of designations are expiring on the 11th of October this year. So that entire bunch of people, they also would need to reapply. So we will just see how we're going to work that process. It shouldn't be too difficult, because surely their IDs didn't change. We just need to confirm whether they got any new qualifications since they applied, and if they are still employed at the same institution. And, you know, because those are the 3 things we currently need for a application. So that shouldn't be too difficult a process. And just to come into the restructuring, the 3.2.8 as well. So with the swapping of tasks, professional body and designations, we plan to move that along to Kagiso and take membership away from him, move that over to Lebo. So if for a time, if there's a person that is their job, I mean, that won't be his only job, but we can work, then he will be able to follow up with each and every person, make sure they have achieved their points, make sure that they have all the documents that they need to have, and so on. So Nora, there is a plan. Some of it is still in the head, some of it is on paper, but there is a plan, and we just need to start formalizing, as I said, and execute.
Okay. I had a question and now I've forgotten what it is. Wynand, you had your hand up?
Yes, thank you. I noticed this is not completely the same thing, but I still want us to keep our eyes on the recognition of prior learning.
That's my question.
Yes, because that is,
yeah,
that might help a lot of other people as well, getting them into the system and getting them registered professional designations.
Absolutely. It fleetingly went through my brain as well when I spoke, but definitely we ask all those people if they want to be part of the task team, and then from there it just fizzled out. And I think we definitely need to get that rolling as well, because even though we have the policy, there is much more work to be done for that than any of these other professional body related things. So definitely we need to.
Yeah.
If I may, Nazim,
sure.
There must be a link between the LIASA Academy and this recognition of prior learning, because the academy will have to be structured in such a way that it can speak to the needs of the professional recognition. And how do we then, so the LIASA Academy is not just about setting up a curriculum, but how do we measure people who have been in the profession for long periods of time? So we should use the academy most probably as the vehicle for the recognition as well. I don't know how it normally works.
Yes, so there are professional bodies that outsource it. I don't think we have the funds to outsource it. And also because we are a specialized sector, I think it would be much more difficult to outsource it. We cannot give it to a UKS or another training company in the country, because UKS, even though they are working with a few higher institutions, they are more geared towards the public library sector. So it is not very inclusive. So we definitely will have to see that RPL is done through the academy, and to then also provide opportunities for those that already were awarded their designations, that they can, if they should wish to, have extra CPD points through the academy and, of course, upskill themselves.
Anne-Marie, can I ask, there was a list of people we approached and the people who had indicated yes, and this was last, I don't know, I'm not even sure it was last year. I think it was actually in 2019 towards the end of my years of becoming confused. Certainly towards the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, I think somewhere we got some people who agreed to be part of the whole RPL process. Could we just go back to those people as well, just to determine whether they are still on board for it, so that we know that we have that? Because I think it's something that we can't lose sight of, because my fear is if we then, and it's for argument's sake, say there is approval of the other two designations, we go all out, we tell people about it, the next question that's going to come from our members is about RPL. Because that's the next logical thing that they're going to ask us about. And we should be ready to actually then tackle both of them at the same time. And so when we draw up a plan, it should involve all of those things. Even though there's maybe not something right now we will do about RPL, but be able to say to people, this is what we've put in place. And we will communicate going forward as to how this process will be handled and managed and etc.
Absolutely.
So if we could maybe do that when you're back from leave.
Yeah, I think Rebecca had her hand up, but she had the final list who agreed and who didn't agree. So I'm sure she can forward that to us again. And the one definitely flows into the other one. So for RPL, we need to have this task team set up exactly the process, how it's going to get done. And then the academy can take over. But without that basis for RPL, because strictly speaking, the academy can do that as well. But, we have approached people that agreed to do it, and we just look like fools for not following through, actually. So we definitely need to go back to those people and involve them.
Yeah. And the thing is, we have the document. I'll get you now, Rebecca. We have the document that the board had circulated to us before. And as far as I understood, that is what we accepted as the document, because I couldn't find any amendments to that document. Rebecca?
Okay.
Thanks, Nazim. It isn't much, and I think Anne-Marie has just highlighted it. And I didn't want to use the word that she just used, but I can use it now that she started. That we may, the question that you asked earlier, that should we go back and ask them if they're still interested? They were interested, they were waiting. And yes, that's why Anne-Marie is saying we are kind of fools, because we just let it pass and with no explanation. So all we have to do is to approach it nicely, to say we need to start on this process. So, and then start communicating rather than asking them if they're still interested. They were interested, they were waiting for us, but we did not do much. So I will check the list and then I will send to all of you again.
Rebecca, and perhaps let's set a date for a meeting.
Yes, I think that that could give them an assurance that this thing is happening.
Yeah.
That it doesn't fall apart again. Wynand, you had your hand up, although it's down now. So I
but I wanted to ask, is there any way I can get involved in the LIASA Academy? In the discussions?
Why? Of course. Yes, of course.
You're not going to finish, Anne-Marie. Your yes, I'm afraid.
You got back at me the way I would have. That was very nice. Thank you, Anne-Marie. That I know from my experiences, and I'm sure all of us can talk to this. There's a difference between, and what I want to figure out is how does the Library Academy is supposed to focus on the profession, but at the same time, there's peripheral things that we need to focus on. Like, I don't know if you know this, but there's for argument's sake, there's a lot of bullying happening in the industry currently. And, you know, so what are the skills needed? So it's the soft skills that must come in as well. And that's one of the reasons I want to actually, and also I have a lot to say to the library schools about their curriculum. So I would love to be part of this.
Okay, remember the library schools. Yeah, Wynand, the library schools are not involved in the LIASA Academy. It's two completely separate issues. So the academy will take over where the library school stopped. So the library school focus most of their energies on theory. And LIASA, the professional body, is supposed to focus on workplace implementation, those skills that you actually need when you have started working. So the library schools, we love for them to be involved, but it is not, they don't really have much of a say in our academy.
Yeah, no, well, I think as part of my point is that we have to take over where they leave off, right?
Yes.
And they're missing the point already. So what you're telling me, in many ways, we have to start from scratch. And that's what I have a problem with.
You see, when I said you will never finish, Anne-Marie, you put us
yeah, but no, of course, Wynand, on a serious note, you're more than welcome to get involved with the academy. You know, the more people, the more expertise we have in there, then the better for the entire sector. I will put your name on the list immediately.
Okay. Can I also just get back to the original point raised by Nora about how we would go about publicizing the new designations should it be approved? But also the current, I mean, we've been talking about the current designation and the low uptake over the last 2 years or so. And while I know you say, Anne-Marie, a lot of it lives in your head, etc., but maybe we should put a concrete date down and say, by this date, can we have something that is a draft in terms of the elements of the overall plan, of what it is that we're wanting to do, so that we can comment on it and then finalize it so that there is already a document, because whoever comes in next as EXCO, it's not something that has to be started from scratch and then we kind of go like, oh, you know, we started something but we didn't finish it, but that there is something, and that we have it is on file and we just have to execute it. So even if for some heaven forbid reason that the 2 additional designations is not approved, we still need to grapple with the current designation and the low uptake of that.
Yeah.
And then together with that, your comment about the fact that the first batch is coming up for renewal, we also need to build that into it in terms of how we're going to encourage those people to renew.
Yes.
And because that also then presents itself as an opportunity to speak to the people who didn't take it up in the first place. So we kind of need advocates from that group to say this was worth a while, and you know, we are actually renewing it because we feel it's worth a while to actually do.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
If we can just look at, and I don't know, new PRO, your job only starts on Monday.
Share my feel
If you have a letter.
Oh yeah.
I'm supposed to get a letter
Pin
or something on
pin
Monday.
them down
Keep
like
telling
that, and
what letter?
I assure you there won't be any letter on Monday, so you can keep on postponing.
Agreement. It's a gentlewoman's and men's agreement.
No, it just means that I can do all the other things because the magazine's deadline is today.
Yeah, sure. Okay. If nothing else, I'll write a shadow letter just in case. Can we maybe, okay, can I ask if we can maybe look at the end of Feb? Is that too long, too short?
No, that's fine.
Well, it's something that Anne-Marie will provide the real information and content for anyway. So, yeah.
Okay. Anna-Marie, that okay with you?
It's okay with me, yes.
Okay. Yes, Rebecca.
Sorry, my president-elect. End of Feb, we're looking at, just for noting.
That we'll have this draft version of, let's call it the marketing plan for the designations, the current designation that's available, as well as the two designations that we're hoping will come on board very soon. And then obviously also the whole RBL thing. Okay. Can we step off this, or is there any other comments?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, we can step off the ball, I assume. Okay, Skexel. And before we get into discussion about it, Nikki kind of mentioned this to me yesterday in our meeting as well. But we didn't quite get into the detail of it. So before you ask me what the amount is, I actually don't know. Well, let me just be upfront about it. I think what she wants is an agreement in principle, whether we are okay with this. So just to bring everybody into the picture, I think it's about 2 weeks ago, myself, Nikki, and Anna-Marie, no, it's actually not even 2 weeks, it's about almost 2 weeks. We had a meeting with Charlene around Skexel and what needs to be put in place in order to pull off the Skexel conference in 2022. As you would all know by now, and it's something that probably has to go on the agenda for when we have a full EXCO meeting, we don't actually have a PCO, so to speak. Scatterling's contract ended at the end of 2019 already, I think. So the Indaba, for example, was done with them, but it was a special contract that was drawn up to give effect to that. With the Skexel thing, it would follow a similar kind of trend that we would have to draw up a very specific contract, very much the way the Indaba was structured, in order for them to carry on with this. We have conference coming up later this year, and technically speaking, we should have put in place something that would allow us to advertise for a new PCO. But I'm sure that will come up in the next EXCO meeting. Be that as it may, this discussion was held with Scatterlings in the light of the fact that we don't have a PCO. A lot of it is also related to, we kind of know Scatterlings, we know how they work. We might not necessarily be happy with everything, but there is a relationship between the two entities and kind of expectation of what needs to happen. From that discussion that we had, Charlene has delivered a draft version of a budget, which we haven't quite interrogated. At this point in time, it comes to just under 900,000, but that's the full budget. So as I said, right now, I can't tell you what the amount is that Nikki is looking for right now. But I would assume it's the percentage of whatever Scatterlings would say they would need in order to put this into play, which I'm not sure what it is, Anna-Marie, normally.
Nazim, we have to actually, I haven't looked at the contract, but it might be 10%, 10 or 20% of that amount.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we're talking about. And as I said, my understanding from Nikki is that she wants an in principle agreement from EXCO that in light of there not being any other funding, that EXCO supports the use of LIASA funding for this purpose. So Nora, you had your hand up?
Yeah, So I'm assuming that we are going ahead with working on the assumption that LIASA will host EXCO next year, even though
Yes.
So basically they're not pushing it out because there was no EXCO last year when it was supposed to happen, right? And then LIASA's turn was going to be in 2022. So we are not taking into account the fact that they are actually, how can I say, they only going, are they actually having a conference this year?
Yeah.
That
so
was my first question.
Okay.
And then they're not skipping a year and now changing the pattern going forward, I suppose.
So, yeah.
And then I know that you're hoping to recover, LIASA would hope to recover the money, but what guarantees does LIASA have of recovering the money from EXCO?
Okay. So your first question, as far as we know, unless they tell Anna-Marie something different in response to her email, as far as we know, 2021 is still happening. Although if you look around you, there isn't much communication about it. I realized now the other day that I actually hadn't seen anything. And even if you go onto the website, it kind of looks like it's a little bit up in the air still. But in the meeting that we had, and Rebecca and Anna-Marie, you can come in if I communicate something incorrectly. If I look at the meeting we held with Justin and I forget the other gentleman's name in last year, John. 2021 was intended to happen now in February. We did have a discussion about 2022, and it was agreed that it wouldn't skip a year, that it would remain in the year that it was intended to be, and that it would take place in April, which is normally when it takes place. February is an anomaly in my understanding because it's the 2020 conference that's now taking place in February of 2021. But that the South African one wouldn't be extended by another year because of that, and that it would follow the pattern of what EXCO conferences normally followed. Your third question about the recouping the money, again, I can't really answer you that one. From everything in the meeting that I attended, it is funding that comes to us, whatever is, Anna-Marie, and you've got to help me out here. My understanding is that a lot of that funding comes to the host country in any case. But yes. Again, I think what is up in the air for us is one, whether 2021 will actually go ahead as planned. And I think a lot of it also depends on what's happening in the world at the time. Right now, we can't say. What we have agreed to for 2022 is that it will be marketed as a virtual conference, not as a face-to-face and nor as a hybrid. That will be the initial communication that would go out, that it is a virtual conference, and monitoring what is happening in the world in terms of COVID, we might change it and say, due to conditions now being more favorable than it was in 2020 and 2021, we will now consider hosting this as a hybrid. And then because there was a whole lot of discussion about that, and we did agree that it's more difficult to market something as a hybrid initially and then having to take it to a virtual. So So that's the reason for saying it's a virtual conference from the word go, with the possibility, depending on the conditions, that it would change to a hybrid. So there'd be some face-to-face, but that we would also offer part of it as a face-to-face meeting. If you look at the website for the 2021 SCEXO conference, you'll see it's a hybrid, from what I understand from the website. So there are elements. It is marketed as face-to-face, but there's also the virtual component to it. From what we understood is that Namibia does not have a high incidence of COVID. Nikki had asked Anna Marie and myself about attending SCEXO, but obviously things have overtaken us since then, and whether we were comfortable attending. And I think one of the things that we did bring up is that we were not necessarily comfortable with the fact that there are people coming from all over, and you don't know what that status is of that person. But that's kind of where we find ourselves. Rebecca?
Can I? Oh, sorry, is there a hand?
Okay. Oh, yeah. Rebecca?
Okay. Now I lost track. But yeah, I was just adding that to say we seem to have not given EXCO the full report from the SCEXO meeting. That's one. And yes, you have covered what Nora was asking, that it will be held as you. Let me not go into that. But I wanted to ask, do we, in terms of approval for the funds, do we have money? If we have money, I don't see, because we don't seem to have another choice, because we will be hosting. And as you indicated that they said the monies will come back to LIASA. But if we do have money, then as I'm saying, it looks like we don't have any other way but to kind of fund SCEXO moving forward in preparation of our hosting. Yeah, I think I wanted to add that. Thanks.
Anna Marie?
I just want to explain about SCEXO and funding and finances. So SCEXO itself does not have any money. It doesn't mean that they are broke. It just means that they don't operate like that. So the country that is hosting the next conference, that is the SCEXO office, and that's what they're trying to change. But that association then also is supposed to get all the membership fees for those 2 years. They're supposed to arrange the conference, and it's on a zero budget, so you don't get anything from SCEXO, but you also keep all the profits if there are any profits. So SCEXO can't assist with funding. So it is all on LIASA or the hosting country.
So my next question, sorry, I in this time where there is no, I know that in the past people would look at government sponsoring, and it's a SADC thing, so people go out of their way to get their governments to assist with funding and that sort of thing. My big concern is, given the times that we find ourselves in, how much, and we have this layout of, say, the total budget is 900,000, and we hope to recoup that 900,000. I'm not even talking about a profit. My concern is that there is no guarantee. So if at this point all we're doing is to secure scatterlings, for example, and that the money is for that. So if we're talking 90,000 Rand, it's still a lot of money, which I'm assuming would have to come from LIASA's reserves. We didn't make much profit on the conference that we've just had. So, and just the state of the world at the moment, I can't see that there's going to be a hybrid next year. I can't see there being a hybrid this year. Vaccine rollouts are so iffy. I mean, so many countries have realized now that even where they have secured and paid for the vaccines, they're actually not getting it because it still has to be manufactured. And it is very likely that we're going to be sitting in this situation at least until the end of the year, with all the social distancing, the masks, all of that stuff. So if we were to pay the deposit now to secure scatterlings, is that deposit non-refundable? Or is it refundable should the conference for some reason not happen? Or does it mean that because the conference isn't going to happen in April, we now have to push it back because regardless of the, the money that is not going to come back, and we are then forced to postpone and not cancel and get a refund? I think those are questions that need to be considered.
Steve, you've been very quiet.
No, I've raised my hand.
Well, I see your hand is up now.
Yes,
Please
but I lowered it just before Nora spoke. But what I want
please go ahead.
What we need to keep in mind is, as we got in, we had a reserve of about 4.5 million. And now we are sitting at around 3. If we go down to that level, we'll be having around 2. And given particularly what Nora was saying in terms of the risks around COVID and what is happening with regard to the vaccines, I do not have confidence that we will be able to recoup any. Like our expenditure in the previous conference, we did not make any profit. Instead, I think we even spent more.
Okay.
Despite what we got from DEC. And maybe whatever we decide, we also need also to bounce it back with REPCO, because at the end of the day, if you engage a service provider to do the job, whether the job happened or not happened, you still have to pay, like what we incurred for the 2020 conference. And given our state of finance, and the conference is likely to happen around April, March. And
in April.
Yeah, if you look at the state of COVID now, do we have confidence that in February we can be out of that? And
no, we can't.
No.
Which is why I mentioned the fact that when it is marketed, it will be marketed as virtual, and only if the circumstances at the time allows it will it actually change to something else. But for all intents and purposes, I think we should go on the basis that it's going to be virtual. Just by the way, in this meeting that we had with Scatterlings about Skexel, it was noted to them as well that the 2022 LIASA conference will be virtual. It's not going to be a hybrid, and it's not going to be a face-to-face. And I'm sure at the next meeting, Nikki will talk about it.
And the other thing, Nazim, I feel, given how we have been doing the conferences, it's just that the time frames of how we want to do things, I'm not quite comfortable that we have tested the market enough in terms of the fees which we are paying. And that is part of the responsibility to ensure that we try to save LIASA money as much as possible as EXCO. And if we keep on going the same direction in terms of service provider, and without testing other reputable people for a conference of this nature, how far can they go with us? And we compare. I feel maybe if you look behind, if you are in a state of finance which is not conducive, and you don't test the market, and you don't, I understand the service provider knows us very well for quite some time, but for the purpose of cost savings on this one, I would also suggest that we test the market.
Okay. So, is that it, Steve?
Thank you, Chair. I'm done.
Okay. All right. Tebogo, I haven't heard anything from you. Can I have your thoughts?
I don't know, Chairperson of the session. Issues of money, more especially, we are talking a lot of money. We need to trail cautiously when we are about to commit the association under such thing. I will suggest maybe some form of investigation or lobbying of other structures be done, so that it should not backfire on us. Because really, there's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of uncertainty because of this pandemic. So even if it's virtual, some other institutions are struggling to allow people even to join this virtual platform because there's still registration. So I don't know. I think we need to canvass more support around this issue and get more information to convince people. And then we can say put something from the association as part of the money that will assist the process to go on. Thank you.
Okay. So if I read the room correctly, do I understand it that we're not at this point in time in favor of approving in principle the use of LIASA money in relation to Skexel at this point in time, pending further investigation of what is required in terms of amounts, in terms of the service provider used, as well as the current environment in which we operate in. Do I understand that as being what we're saying?
Also,
yes, on my side, yes.
Also, Nazim, Nora touched on something. We have got our regular sponsors, particularly DEC. I think we need a courtesy meeting with them to say there is this. We we are requesting assistance, and we check how far do they commit to that. And that would also help alleviate some of our financial constraints.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Rebecca, you have all of that, eh?
I guess so, yes. Thanks, my Angela.
All right.
There are recordings, you'll follow them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that takes 2 more days, my dear Tebogo. I know. Thanks, though.
Okay.
All right. LIASA Youth League. Anna-Marie, you're back on the floor again.
So I need to unmute. Nikki and I didn't have a long discussion about this. She just mentioned that the Youth League, whatever we got to call it for now, we know what we're talking about when we say Youth League. We need to definitely start it. And that also came from the letter that she apparently got from, I don't know who. But for a while now, we had a student chapter or something that we were looking at, and I mean, that's how far it got. We were just looking at it. But I think that since, I suppose it was somebody in Limpopo, I don't know how Limpopo came up in this conversation, but we do know that those students are the most vocal. So we just suggested that Kagiso assist in the process. I mean, he's still young enough. Legally, he's still a youth. And he is in Limpopo now. So if there needs to be traveling done within Limpopo, it's much closer for him. So we will task Kagiso to assist or to be on this committee and move this forward with, of course, with a number of other people. So that is what I know about this.
Yeah, that's all I know as well. That Nikki mentioned to me yesterday.
Okay, can I come in?
Sure, Tebogo. And I see your hand, Steve.
Yes.
Okay.
Tebogo.
All right. I wanted to check, do we have something like a document, like maybe even if there are questions that will guide Kagiso and the team to go about? Something like maybe a brief rationale that outline what is expected of them so that they can be able to move on.
I think this is what Nikki was referring to, when we've had this discussion before, and Steve and Linda was kind of tasked to look at these things. It's that document that must come out of there that would actually say, this is our approach in terms of the youth, in terms of students, future students, etc. And this is how we're going to go about it. So I don't know if that's what you wanted to speak about, Steve.
Yes. How far we have gone on this issue was that the current librarian of the year, because we haven't had Mr. Makashela, and I think it might be Dr. Makashela by now, and he offered to, because of his, as a lecturer, he's involved with a lot of universities, to coordinate where they could form an association or a group for the library services students to be able to be more organized and be able to facilitate. But we provide platform for them in our activities or events, and perhaps also putting maybe some smaller amounts of investments where we can offer incentives for the best performance, particularly when it comes to presentation of papers and related things, which would not be really be costly for us because it will be part of marketing. But the other issue which is not catered for, which I was thinking once we get this one right, because we've got a person who have volunteered and he was even prepared to put some of the monies there to start the process, is the graduates. Because once they get out of the institutions, they are at their own. How would you, that was one of the other area where, how do we get them not to get lost from the system? And how do we keep them active? And what opportunities do we provide as LIASA and our partners? Those are the issues which, and with Mr. Makashela, if maybe sometimes what we should be doing on this one, I would recommend that we do a committee, and then that committee meets, and then we come up with something from that committee, and then it will be quicker to do that. And then maybe sometimes even when we are there, because it's related, those people would have graduated from the system, and then how do we deal with those who graduate from the system, but they are not accommodated elsewhere? And then we come up with ideas around that. I think it would work much better.
Okay. So Steve, I like what you're saying, etc. But I think one of the things that we maybe need to do, and I think like similarly, like we had the conversation around, the designations and the marketing of the designations. I think the same thing we've got to do here. We've got to set a date, and that becomes a date, because I think one of the issues is we've kind of left it up in the air and then said, this is what we will do. But set no concrete date as to when this must be finalized for the draft to come to EXCO to look at. So can we look at a possible date for doing this? My question to you is, though, listening to everything that you said when you first came on, do you have the capacity and the time to do it? Considering what is happening in your work sphere. Because I don't want you to commit yourself to something also, and then from a work perspective, you can't really give it the attention that it deserves. Nora, I see your hand. Yeah.
President-elect, before... Okay.
Yes, Tebogo.
I'm sorry, the laptop I'm using, it has got two options, is sharp and applause. So when I don't... So when I try to raise hand,
sharp and what?
It's applause and sharp. Those are two options.
That's okay. We'll take applause.
After a few minutes, it disappears. Okay, I wanted to check. I wanted to check something with Steve.
Yes.
He said the current librarian of the year is establishing an association that will be addressing what we are saying. Are we not putting ourselves to a situation whereby we'll be having a parallel structures? In my mind, I wouldn't think of us creating something outside the ambit of LIASA. My thinking will be to put those people together and channel them towards the association, not to establish something outside. It's going to be difficult to try to drive it in later on. People will be starting to be entitled to certain positions and certain privileges or whatever that will come with that association outside the LIASA, and LIASA will have no legal footing over that thing. That's my concern, Brother Steve.
Yeah, I think maybe the issue is we coordinate list schools.
Okay.
For them to have the student chapter to be able to participate in the activities of LIASA.
Okay.
And if we do that, how do we do it and in a more acceptable way, what form that it can come to LIASA. And like I was talking about the graduates, they not be, although in terms of membership they are there, but they are not a formalized.
There are not many of them.
Yes. But how do we accommodate those so that they are not lost in our system? And that's what we want to bring about with this.
Okay, no, I understand.
The only thing which I think we need is to have, maybe sometimes if we can be 5 people, because if it's me and Linda from the EXCO, and Mr. Mahashela, I think we must rope him in. And then whose other 2 can we get, so that even when we come up with a concept which we are coming to present, about time, I don't have a problem as such, as long as I can be able to negotiate with people who are members of the committee about what times we can do the meetings.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I?
No, Nora?
Now the meeting that we're supposed to have with the heads of the library schools, right? There, one of the points they raised was the student chapter, right? So there's a dovetailing happening here. And I don't think that these processes should happen in isolation of each other.
Yes.
Because through the forum, you would be able to gain access to the students. That's the one thing. And then I don't know, when I was at UCT, and this was when I did my diploma in 1988. All of us, one of the first things we did, I think at the first or the second week of orientation, we were as students encouraged to join sailors at the time, because that was the only professional body, unless you went with LIASA, but it wasn't, they weren't active in Cape Town. So the lecturer who actually did the modules on management and professional behavior and all of those things was actually included in our curriculum, was the person who also promoted the why you belong to an association. So it was very much part, so you were being groomed for, it wasn't just about curriculum in terms of content and stuff. You were actually being groomed. And I remember also people being provided with sessions to draw up their CVs and how you look for work. And, you know, all of those things were actually part of the curriculum. Now, things have changed a lot, I understand. And I find that people are in the final year, they have no idea how to write a CV. They even applying to, you know, even when they're coming for field work, one of the things we did at ETV was you had to, it was like going for a job. You had to tell us why you thought you needed to do field work with us. And we put you through your paces in the same way an employer would. But a lot of employers don't, or prospective employers don't actually do that. So students don't even leave with that kind of practice at interviews, at writing CVs and all of those things. And I always envisaged that one, if we should have a student chapter, when people get into their final year, or if they're doing only a 2-year course or whatever, at that stage already, they need to be encouraged to join LIASA. And LIASA needs to offer those students something. One of the things that I think we got was as SALIS members, we weren't full members of SALIS, we were associate members, and you got certain benefits, but not all the benefits of being part of the association. And of course, the networking and all of that was very important. And I do think that when we don't look at this youth league separate from the meeting, that meeting that we have with the heads of library schools, that should be the starting point of how we get to students and how we then influence. And also, just on another matter, I remember with UniZulu, in previous conferences with Dennis Ochola, they used to have a group that used to come and present, and the university actually paid for them. And also we used to have a prize for the best presentation. And I don't know when that fell by the wayside, but they used to, I know, as one of the institutions, organize a group. I think UCT as well. So I think if we can revive that, instead of LIASA forming another committee and trying to do this with ourselves when we've got so much work to do, and to do it through the schools, the LIS schools, and say, okay, we will have this is the chapter, these are what we envisage with these, this is what we envisage as benefits. This is how, even bringing in the academy, because the academy can be offering those finishing, what I call like finishing school touches for graduate
Things
students.
They don't teach you in.
Because they don't teach you that. So preparing you for the working world.
CV writing, interviews, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. So I envisage the academy offering those sorts of things, and it be a partnership between the academy and the library schools, and that will be the better way to reach students than working in silos in Limpopo or wherever.
I will be writing your PRO letter today still. Because I think some of the things I wanted to say, following what Steve had said earlier, is that there should be some plan from a A to Z kind of thing. So I think we've neglected students for a long while, and we've kind of expected it just to have happened via osmosis, it seems. If I look at other associations across the world, there's an active component that speaks to students. Even before that, I was looking at something in, I think it's in Silip or in Alia, I can't remember where it even goes so far as to looking at scholars. You know, how do you attract people to actually take up the profession? So it begins before they even come to, and we haven't even gone then, and it should be something we should be involved in. We should have something that says, this is what, even if it's just marketing material that goes out there. So I do think it's an important component that we've neglected over years, and that we need to get to grips with. And I agree with you that possibly this meeting with the library schools is probably the simplest way to actually approach it, and it's actually the cleverest way to actually do it, because you need them on board to a large degree. And your whole thing around sailors, it worked because there was a relationship between that association and the library schools, which doesn't necessarily exist in the LIASA times, because very often, and nothing against anybody, but it very often comes down to personalities. It's about who doesn't like who, and then they either support the association or they don't. And we need to get beyond those kind of things for all of these things to work. So yeah, I'll write you an email appointing you as the PRO, so that Monday there's no lag. I'll just send it to Nikki for sign off,
I can help you in writing.
Yes, yeah, I can help you in writing.
Thank you.
Because I think this needs to be in line with the PRO's insight into these things as well. So while we have the possibility of Kagiso being part of this and driving a lot of things, it needs a PRO eye over it as well, in terms of how you market it, but it also needs it needs all of us to actually put something down to actually say this is how LIASA will function moving forward in relation to students.
Just as an aside, and when you mentioned scholars and how people get into the profession, one of the first things I would ask our fieldwork students is, why did you choose this? Why did you study this? And the answers I used to be horrified, because and at ETV, we were very picky because we didn't have time to waste. So I made that very clear. People needed to be there to know they wanted to learn the work, because we really didn't have time to waste on people that thought they were just going to stamp books. Just one little anecdote. A student told me while they were in the queue, the one person wanted to do tourism, but she was then persuaded by her father that if she worked in a library, she'd be have a job for life. So she moved from conservation to working in the library. And then another student said to me that all the courses that she wanted to take had all the things she wanted to do was taken, and so she was told by a friend that this is a really easy course, and once you get your qualification, you can always go and do something else. So it starts with what used to be called career guidance at school, I suppose.
And just to latch on to that, this is part of what we need to cover when we do the library week stuff about why libraries matter. So if libraries matter, we need more people to actually come into the profession, and we need to sell that to them. Just by the way, Rebecca, you had your hand up.
Yes.
Rebecca, can I just ask you, the meeting's supposed to have gone to 12:30, eh?
1.
Am I right?
1.
Up to 1. Okay, because it's 1:10.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
And we still got a couple of things to get through.
Yeah, I'm just checking that as well. But you are touching on the things that I'm passionate about, and I'm doing it on my personal note, as some of you might know. The career guidance that Nora is indicating, and at some point, those who don't even know what librarianship is all about, and when they hear my stories, and it just spice it, because they think, oh, I'm doing all this because I'm a librarian. When I travel and when I do this, they said it looks like it's very interesting to be a librarian. So, but I spice it with what I'm doing. But then I echo with what Nora said, to say it's actually a very good time for the head of LIS to request this meeting, because that's where we could tie up with all of this. And indeed, we need to work hand in hand with them, especially on the graduate and on the student issue. And the revision of what used to happen at conference, it was through rhetoric, and we one of the days touched on it, that since it was also not on par, then all things fall apart. So there was no such as presenting of students at conference and so on. So until, and going back to what Teboho was saying, to say it should not be something outside LIASA. We do have it within LIASA, but as Nora said, we need to revise some of the things. And one of the things that we were doing was through rhetoric. And I remember Ujala also trying to rope the finalist of Librarian of the Year from all branches to also form part of such kind of things, to say we need to present at conference and so on. So all those things are now in vain, and it's some of the things that, as you are saying, Nazim, that we could try and put them back into perspective. But I'm sure we could do better if we align and put some timelines on it to say, so that we make it happen. Otherwise, if we talk, it will be one of those, and it will be a shame. And I'm prepared to assist however way I can. I'm very passionate about this very youth league of Wynand.
All right. So getting back to Steve's original question of having more hands. So it's yourself, Steve, it's Linda. Kagiso, we're adding to the group as well. If we add the librarian of the year, that's another body. If we add the PRO, because I do believe it needs to also involve that leg of the association. Then we talk about 5 people. Rebecca could lend assistance depending on what it is that is required. Then you've got a couple of more hands. So what I want to propose as the way going forward is we are busy talking about the setting up of this meeting with the heads of library schools, depending on what we find out about Skexel, because I think that also impacts the date that Nikki was talking about, Rebecca. If we can sort that out, then that will happen in sometime in the middle of Feb somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah. Following the outcome of that meeting, I think, Steve, then we need to decide on a date when we need something from your group. Nothing prevents you from starting to work on it already. But I think then we need to set a date for when that document needs to be produced as a draft that comes to EXCO. And I think if I just think further down the line, that we shouldn't wait too long. I don't want to say the end of Feb, because we still need to have the meeting with the library schools and whatever comes out of that. So somewhere I would like to think towards the end of March is when we need to have some form of draft document that speaks to how this will function, what we intend to do, and then it comes to EXCO for comment, and hopefully we can then finalize the document, and again there'll be something that we can then work from. So if we can work, I think, towards a final date of, just look at what a calendar looks like. Yeah, I think by, let's say, the end of March.
31st? 31st?
Yeah, 31st of March. As to having an initial draft for us to actually look at, unless Nikki changes it. But for now, that's what I would want to propose. Because then we would take into consideration in whatever comes out of the heads of school meeting as well.
Yes, I agree. And the reason why we also tried to look at the current librarian of the year, the University of Limpopo, they've got all the universities has got what they call student association of list students. And that student association of list students are the one which are active and keeping on a lot of questions. So if we combine for all the list schools, and then we organize them from that level, and I think it would work much better. That's why he was saying only 3 list schools or 2 are active, but if they organizing all of them to have common activities and be active, it would be much better. That's where the issue came around.
Okay. All right. Okay, if we can step off of this, it's 1:15. I just want to jump again. So restructuring, I'm not going to touch on because Nikki didn't really talk to me about it. It was something she was going to talk about today. But in all of the talks we've had thus far, so while we're talking about students, etc., we also need to bear in mind that how would this look in terms of restructuring? Not for us to talk about here, but just something for us to park and for you to think about. Okay, elections. Tebogo, as Nikki pointed out, again, she didn't go into detail with me. She just wanted to know whether I am in agreement. So, because you're the constitutional person, I think it's only logical that this falls on you, that you become the person who drives a lot of things around elections. In discussion with Nikki yesterday, we agreed between ourselves that you would feed back to the two of us, and based on what follows from that discussion, the rest of EXCO would then get involved. But that you would also obviously then have to be in contact with Leila around a lot of things. There would obviously be some things I would think that you'd have to talk to the LNO about. One of the things, I don't think we should reinvent the wheel. You did deliver a document when we originally talked about elections in 2020, I think it was. So I think if you can just recirculate that document, Tebogo, maybe just have a look at what you presented there, see if there's anything that needs to change. And then maybe just resubmit for everybody to look at. I think that would be a good starting point. I'll also look at the things that I had sent to EXCO at the time, based on what I thought we should do in terms of promoting elections, etc., and then we can take it from there, if you are okay with that.
Yes, I'm okay with that. I think
okay.
We need to start as early as now, because we need also to make people aware about that slot of the closing timeline for voters, all the stuff.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay, no, I will do that.
As I was saying, I remember your original document spoke to a lot of those things. So I think if you can just find that, have a look at it again, see if everything is in there again, and then maybe just recirculate it to EXCO. And that can be the start of our discussion points.
Okay.
By when, Mr. President-elect?
By yesterday. Maybe Tebogo, if by Monday latest you could just circulate that to us as a starting point.
Yes, I will. By Monday it will be fine.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, LNO restructuring. Anna Marie, I don't know what you want to say about it, but the floor is yours.
Okay, the LNO restructuring. So what Nikki spoke about on Monday, and I think what we have discussed in various forums and meetings in the past, was that we just need to redefine, in preparation for the LIASA restructuring, the roles and responsibilities in the office. And during our staff meetings, we often said that the office shouldn't wait for the other process to finish. You know, sort of one day it is still old structure, next day it's new structure, and suddenly we have new roles and responsibilities. So we proposed that, you know, we gradually moved into the new roles. So what we are going to do now is looking at new roles, move things around, look at the current job descriptions, as well as the vacancy that is still there, and see how we can redistribute amongst the 3 staff members that are there at the moment. Also, you know, to make it a bit more challenging for the staff. All have been there for many, many years now, and I think some people are getting bored. You know, it is very much admin. All of us are qualified librarians, but what we do is very much admin. We all knew that when we applied for the job, so that is nobody's fault. But just to get back into the sector a little bit. So we're going to see how we can move things around, perhaps Lebo taking over the bulk of membership. Kagiso will move into professional body and designations, that role, and then the rest of the tasks, see how we can distribute that. So that's what we know so far. We will work on that also over the next month or two, and redraft job descriptions, discuss with the staff, discuss with EXCO, and I don't know if it needs to go to Rep Council, I don't know. But yeah, that's where we are.
Okay.
And the staff are happy with that. They very much look forward to new roles and responsibilities.
Okay. All right. Branches and interest groups. Nikki and I didn't really speak about it yesterday. Needless to say, I think from what we've been discussing today, I think there's a lot that needs to happen in terms of branches and interest groups. And again, I think one of the things we maybe have lost sight of is that we had said and I think especially in the time of COVID, maybe that's something that we need to think about, is it's maybe easier to connect with branches and interest groups because you do it in a virtual environment, and maybe that's what it actually requires, is to maybe now and then have some virtual meeting just with people. But that's just me speaking out loud. In terms of restructuring, I think the fact that the restructuring has lagged because of COVID, I think it inevitably has an impact on branches and interest groups, whether we like it or not. We kind of delivered a message at the beginning of our term to say, down with branches and interest groups. I know that sounds crass, but that's how people viewed it. And yet it's dragged on. Inevitably people kind of lose interest, I think, because we haven't quite communicated what is next in terms of restructuring. Not necessarily through a fault of our own, but people do need some direction as well, I think, as to where we're going and how long this will actually take. Which reminds me that I think one of the things we need to put on the agenda some way is to talk about this document that was meant to be delivered to the membership around restructuring, which we obviously couldn't do due to COVID, but it is something that we need to go back to as well. The last thing left on the agenda is finance. Steve, you are out. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, before you go on, I think Nikki earlier said one of the things about branches and interest groups is that we failed miserably was communication with them. So perhaps, Rebecca, if we can, every second month, schedule a meeting that it is in the diaries and whoever can be there. It doesn't always need to be a formal long meeting. So that we have something in a diary, and if we can just find out from everybody how they are and what they plan, and that's the end of the meeting. If there's something more substantial to talk about, but if it's in the diary, and if you can't be there, if you have something else, that is fine too. Just that people know we do want to speak with them.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. Yeah, is that if, yes, Rebecca, sorry, go on.
So sorry as well. I wanted to just add on what Anne-Marie said. But now I want to urge that EXCO, please accept or whatever, or we can just do without your permission, because such kind of meetings are scheduled, and at the end of the day, we don't get any go ahead, and it just, get offside. Thanks.
Yeah. But that is what I was kind of getting at, is that I'm not even talking about like a 2-hour thing. I mean, I think that will just bore people to tears. If it does go on for 2 hours, that's all good and well. But a kind of almost like I saw this in ALA now the other day. ALA is doing, they call it town hall meetings, and it's about, they're busy restructuring, it's about elections, etc. So they have these town hall meetings, but it's virtual in a sense, where it's more about touching base with people, to hear people's concerns, to actually just have a communication session with people. And that's what I'm alluding to. And then maybe that is the starting point for us to kind of just get back in touch with branches and interest groups for the remainder of this term, just to get them on board with where we are, where we are hoping to go. It is an election year. One of my concerns is the fact that there are particular branches, I think, one or two that I'm aware of, where, for example, there is no longer, from what I can understand, a chair-elect. And all of those kind of things. So I think it's also a measure of reassurance. We've had the SGM, not everybody's been there. And maybe it's now just smaller meetings that we have. And I agree with Anna-Marie that if we can all agree to it, it goes into people's diaries. If you can be there, you are there. If you can't, because something else has come up, that's fine. But we have a kind of a set agenda of what we want to discuss with people. We ask them to bring things to the meeting, and we just have a discussion, and it's whoever can be there at the time. Again, it's not a forced thing, but it's for people just to connect with us. And I think that will go a long way towards maybe getting a better response from branches and interest groups. So I'll maybe discuss it with Nikki, in a separate discussion with her, just to get her thoughts on it, and then we can take it from there. Finance. So Steve, you are out of the room at the time. But one of the things Nikki asked is, one of the things we said we would look at doing some form of monthly report on where we are with finances, for you to just look at that. So we have, I see you, Rebecca. So we have an EXCO meeting, which will happen in the next 2 weeks or so forth. So if you can look at possibly having those reports ready for that meeting, and then from there on out on a regular basis.
Noted.
Okay.
But one of the
Thanks, Steve.
One of the other issues
Yeah?
which I would also like us to seriously consider is the financial statements timeframes, particularly with making the first 3 months after the end of the year. We must have the financial statements ready, and the next 2 to 3 months we must have the audit finalized, so that we don't go through what we have been going through for the past years, which we.
Okay, but maybe for the next meeting, Steve.
And the other issue which I want us also to note is the SAGE system. It doesn't seem to be working for us. Maybe we need to revert back to, because we're just paying for the reports are not even coming as we have thought they would, unless in case I would also like, maybe I will keep in touch with the accountant to see as to whether we can review that. And the other issue which I want us also to look at is that we are in a financial constraints in the association. And if it's possible, let's try to cut costs as much as possible, because from my projections on what we might end up going up to almost 50% of the reserves from what we found. In terms of maybe it may not really project good on us, because given our current circumstances, if we might end up going up to 50% of what is in the reserves, which what was in the reserves when we started. And I just wanted us to note those three. The reports, I will try to liaise with the accountant so that we get the proper reports on a monthly basis. Thank you.
Okay. I think, Steve, maybe one of the things you need to do for the next EXCO meeting is, while the request is for you to deliver the financial report, but maybe you must put another report together to kind of unpack the things that you've just spoken about now, and maybe circulate it up front before the meeting so that we also know what it is, and then rather just have the discussion about where do we go next, what are the next steps for those particular matters.
Okay.
And again, it doesn't have to be a long report, it can be bullet points, but just say these are the issues, this is your concerns, and kind of what are the actions that you would like us to consider out of the meeting.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Pleasure. Rebecca, you highlighted the two things that we didn't talk about. Slicing. I don't know who wants to talk to it.
Deborah can also talk to it because he's by
the name is in there.
Default, by default is implicated. Thanks.
Hello, can I speak?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
The only thing you couldn't do was to laugh, but you can speak now.
Okay. All right. On this particular letter of LIASA, I saw the email from Nora, so I requested for me to send the Word document. She said she'll do it.
Okay.
And then the second part on the question that was raised by Nora, in that particular document, we have proposed some sort of a management plan. In that plan, we are talking about identifying strategic partners or people that will collaborate in addressing those challenges. So the HELIC is part of those people that we are going to work on, because there's a gray line between people who are in TVET and people who are in university in terms of what is happening in libraries. So that's why we needed that particular grouping of people to assist us so that we can be able to get all those people who are outside the formation of LIASA.
Okay. Okay. Teboga, I don't know if I'm asking the right question, but reading through this document, one of the things that it maybe doesn't take into consideration, unless I missed it somewhere, is, you know, it kind of talks about slicing in the context of how we're currently functioning. And one of the things I didn't necessarily pick up in here is what happens when LIASA restructures. And I know restructuring is not going to happen overnight. We're not going to wake up. Nikki's not going to, for example, stop being president, and restructuring will happen. And when I take over the next day, there we have a new structure. I'm fully aware of that. But one of the things I didn't necessarily pick up in here is, what if restructuring happens? How does SLIASIC envisage this being moved forward if there is, for example, no longer a SLIASIC? Because what if we do away with interest groups? So in terms of the restructuring, the proposal is that there is it's more on communities of practice rather than anything else. So I also do think that it needs to look at the future, because it's too much focused, I think, on what our current structure is and how we function. And as it is, the structure that we have at the moment doesn't necessarily function the way it should in any case. And a lot of the things that you do talk about in terms of your management plan, for me, speaks more to the whole concept of where we are going in terms of restructuring. So just something for you to think about.
Okay. Okay. The thing that we are trying to address here, the people we are talking about, they are outside the touch of LIASA. So we are trying to get those people in. As they get in, then they'll be going through the processes. But currently, they are there. Nobody is addressing them or attending to them. So what we are trying to do just is to get those people closer to us. Yes, that's the basic principle that we need to get all those people who are outside there to be closer to LIASA.
Okay.
And then the other process of LIASA will take over.
Yeah, you got a very ambitious plan, I must say. And I take my hat off if you can do all of this by the 10th of June. Sending it to the DBE, etc. So, but we'll be supportive.
We are late. That thing.
Yes, of course we are late.
2 years.
As with many other things. Okay. So for now, Nora's going to get the Word document, and then what is the next steps after that? Is that you're going to implement what you've said in there?
Basically, is to start processes of trying to get the things going under the limited circumstances that we find ourselves in, because we cannot go directly to people. So we'll be lobbying people through the different platforms.
Okay. And I mean, I take it.
The other thing is that we didn't want to start something without the knowledge of the whole structure of organization. We need guidance from the organization so that we can do the right thing.
Okay. Nora.
One of the things that just struck me was that I was doing some work with BiblioNef, and they were looking at schools in libraries and in partnership. So they were putting the books into the schools, and then they were in partnership with the bookery, who was actually training people in librarianship. And these are not librarians. In fact, the one lady that I met at BiblioNef, her friend, I think she had been doing admin work at the school, and then the school principal said, you know, she's so interested, she'd make a good librarian, kind of thing. And this sort of thing is happening everywhere. So it's deprofessionalizing us in a way. And I was thinking, what is LIASA? There have been initiatives from advocacy and lobbying to government from organizations like Open Education, for example. I think they're called Open Education or Open, what are they called?
Open access.
Equal education, sorry.
Equal education.
Yes. And one of the concerns I have again is the fact that we never have a unified voice on specific issues. You might disagree with an organization in terms of what they envisage, but shouldn't our first step be to create a broad or work in a broad front with all of these organizations? So equal education, they say there are standards and they look at education, but they don't maybe look at the standards for libraries in that. They say there must be one school, one library, one librarian, but they don't look at the standards of what do you mean by a librarian? What do you mean by a school library? You know, that sort of thing. Then you've got the bookery
going in on that one.
Sorry?
Can I come in on that one of equal education, one library, to
Yes.
clarify it?
Yes.
No, what happened with one library when the equal education was approaching the DBE? DBE used to put stumbling blocks in the form of toilets and all those basic things. Then they took an approach of taking DBE to court holistically on infrastructure. So there is a policy document that the government has developed and it's signed, it's a policy that detail each and everything that should be there in the school, that should be there in a library, in a school, in a lab, in all the infrastructure that is there. That has been achieved through that court case of DBE and equal education. And also we are supporting equal education on all those campaigns that time. So
yes, I understand that from SLIASA, but I'm saying, where is LIASA's name in that? And I'm not talking here about the initiatives. What I'm talking about is, if you look at now with the vaccines, right? And people are starting to say we should have a broad front. So if you look at who are involved now in the vaccine campaigns, bring in civil society. So who's in civil society? You've got say Treatment Action Campaign, who has years of
dealing with these types,
dealing with health issues and actively agitating, right, for the vaccines when they did the antiretrovirals. And basically what is happening in civil society is that people are coming together around a specific issue and creating these broad civil society initiatives. And I just think that when it comes to libraries and school, whether it's school libraries, and that LIASA should be part or even driving initiatives on that level. So it should be LIASA in partnership with Equal Education, with the bookery, with, you know, where you, at the bottom where you talk about the recommendation, we have a consultative platform.
Okay, I understand you now what you're saying. That is why you want this letter to come out as a LIASA. That's why you brought it to so that it should be the baby of the association, not the interest group. Yes, I understand.
And the last line where you've got the, you know, the fact that you want the consultative, I think everybody, that should be the aim of what we are working towards.
Okay.
From SLIASA side is to bring about that consultative process with that broad front.
Okay, noted.
Sorry, that's just my activism from the 80s coming out.
Okay. No, but it's correct. I mean, yeah. I mean, Noda and I have had this conversation about all of these libraries that spring up all over the place that are not linked to a local government, for example. And how do we involve them in terms of who LIASA is? You know, even if people don't belong to LIASA, if you work in a formal public library, you at least know of the association, I think, or most people do. But how many libraries are not being formed by community people because they see there's a lack, and we don't necessarily reach out to them, and that is something that we do need to think about and change. So I think broader than just the school library sector, I think I think academic libraries are probably not in that kind of sphere that we need to worry about, and maybe not even special libraries, but I think certainly in the public library sphere, in the school libraries, it is things that we need to start thinking about, especially if we because it's how we're meant to be thinking of it as a professional body. Before we were a professional body, it's maybe something we could just say, yes, we know we have to, but we just don't have the resources to do all of those things. But as the professional body for the broader sector, it is things that we need to worry about, because it does erode the relevance of LIASA as a professional body if we don't involve people on a much broader level.
And I do think I like the fact that they were, sorry, Nazim. I just wanted to comment on the fact that they brought the TVET colleges in, because the TVET colleges and also there are lots of small private colleges with libraries that we are also not. And I think that I like the document's focus on the fact, and which is why I immediately said there's a blurring of the lines between DBE and DHET. So that is why I raised the HELIC issue. This has got to be a joint effort, because if you just think about how many, the Damelins, and the pressure that those colleges put onto public libraries, because public libraries are trying to fill that gap through their study collections, for example. So public libraries are having to deal with distance learning and have collections for your distance learning institutions. Public libraries have to, for small colleges, private colleges that don't have their libraries. So there's a lot of pressure put on of an academic nature put onto the public library. And I wish Wynand was here for this discussion because of that email that he wrote.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so just in terms of this particular topic and the document where it is, Pumi is going to send Nora the Word version of it, and you'll just polish it up a little bit, hey?
I'll polish it, and then if there's any, like I already made a few comments, I will add to the email comments that I made. Yeah.
Okay. And then it will come back to EXCO just to have a look at again and for further input. But also, it doesn't stop anybody from providing input in the meantime to it. Because I think that's what they want, is for EXCO to give their blessing to what it ultimately aims to achieve. And I think there's not one of us who would say we're not in favor of what they're actually trying to do. Okay. Anne-Marie, 2018-19. Rebecca?
My president-elect, sorry.
Yeah.
So should I then, because with Nikki's email, she said I must inform Mpumi to say she will receive feedback by Monday. So will the feedback then be Mpumi to send? Of course, we've got the document to, should I send the document to Nora for additions and editing? And then we will then send Mpumi back the final edited document for them to go ahead and, okay, all right, thanks. All right, thank you.
Anne-Marie, 2018-19 open invoices. It's 10 to 2, so you've got 10 minutes for the most.
Thanks, Nazim. I'll try to be faster than that. I think in this case, I acted before I had facts. So what happened was that Dean wrote and asked what to do with the unpaid invoices. And I said, I'll put it on the agenda that we can get a decision from EXCO that if there's invoices that we need to write off, that we need to do that. In the meantime, late last night, I did get some numbers from them. But there's a problem because the numbers that we have on the system does not correspond with the numbers that Dean and Nikki Kennedy gave us. So for instance, for the 2018 invoices, no, that's not a good example. For the 2020 invoices, for instance, according to them, there is 133,000 Rand outstanding on membership invoices. However, according to the invoices raised on my LIASA, and that's the only place where we raise invoices, there's only 56,000 Rand outstanding, which is still a significant number, but it is, there's a big difference between 133,000 and so I will need to have a meeting with him first and see why is there a discrepancy? Was there some reports they didn't take into account? What happened? And then I will put it back on the agenda again.
Okay. All right.
Cool.
Thank you very much. Have I covered everything, Rebecca?
On the agenda, I think we may not, we have covered everything, but can I say anything under AOB?
Just to say that under AOB, no, there's no other business. Does anybody have any other business besides lunch? Oh, you do?
Yes.
Yes.
Because I'll be quick. These are the 2 points that I wanted to add on the agenda, but because I found it was closed before I continue and I forgot. It can be discussed in the next meeting anyway, just to note that we still have to work on the letters to the employees for the term or extend whatever the term that we call it.
From the SGM.
Extended. Yes. And then we touch a little bit on the resignations from branches and interest groups. So we also are looking behind. We need to look into that urgently so that we don't just leave things hanging, and they've been asking about it. Those are the 2 things that I wanted to add, but we can take consideration for the next meeting.
No, sure. I wanted to say carry it over to the next agenda, Rebecca. In terms of 4.1, can I ask you maybe to be proactive around that? So you know there's the standard letter that we send at the beginning of a term.
And things got out of hand by the time Linda was asking and whatever, but I'll take that back.
So I think use that as the example and just amend the letter to talk about the extension of this particular term, and maybe send a copy as a draft to everybody to have a look at. And then via email, we can maybe sign off on it. And then it's a matter of just inserting the names and sending it off. Instead of us having a long discussion about it, then it gets delayed for another little while. It's already almost the end of January. But now it should have gone out. So I think maybe rather do it that way. Just amend it, send it to us to have a look at as a draft letter to be sent, and then we can sign off on it. You can use the one that was written, I think, for Linda and myself.
Yes, I will take that.
Use that as the example and see whether it will apply to everybody. And if so, send it to the rest of EXCO to have a look at and get everybody's approval. And then it's a matter of you just sending it out to each one of the REPCO members' employers, instead of it being an agenda item. I think let's just deal with it. The vacancies one, I think, put on the agenda for the next EXCO meeting. And we'll need to talk about it and decide on the plan of action going forward.
All right. I'm sorry, those were the 2 AOB from my side.
No, that's fine. It's good you brought it up, because I think it would have just gotten lost in translation.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. I assume there's no other business.
The last point is date of next meeting.
Yeah. So I think Nikki's now discussed that with you.
Yeah, she indicated in 2 to 3. Yeah, we'll finalize. Thanks.
Can I ask you, Rebecca, also, I know there's a lot of dates that was thrown around, and I know Skexel has now come in the middle of that. But maybe if you could actually just in an email send us all that list of possible dates so that we can just earmark it in calendars, even if it's going to change, that we not get caught off guard about when we're planning to have meetings.
You mean for REPCO and us, or both?
No, so all of the meeting dates that we've been talking about this morning.
All right. Yes.
Can you just collate them all, put them in an email, send them to all of us so that we can also book those dates into our calendars?
Yes.
Even if they might change because of SCEX or one or two of them, but I would like to have it there so that we can also plan around those things.
All right, thanks, my President-elect.
All right. If there's nothing else, I want to thank all of you for being here much longer than we intended to. But thank you for the engagement. Thank you for the laughter and everything else that went along with it. Please be safe and have a really great weekend, whatever it is that you're doing, even if you're in level 5 lockdown.
And working on the LIASA in touch.
There we go.
I didn't notice it's a weekend.
Everybody.
Yeah.
It's a weekend, yes. Very important.
Oh, be safe and be well. Thanks,
Safe,
colleagues.
everybody.
Okay.
Thanks,
Be safe,
everybody.
colleagues.
Okay.
Thank
Be
you.
safe. Have a good
Enjoy your
weekend.
leave, Anna-Marie.
Yes,
Thank you
Anna-Marie,
very
enjoy your
much.
leave.
I'll do
Thank
that.
I won't bother you.
Yes,
Okay,
Anna-Marie, enjoy and come back safe, eh?
We'll
Yeah.
do that. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.